Well, Nick, I do have to say I was expecting Solo to be in the ring, not just a brief video statement at the end. I'm not saying it was bait and switch. It wasn't an explicit misrepresentation, but it was newsworthy. And so we'll just start with that. We've got a lot to cover from this show. But Solo clearly throwing out the challenge for Cody Rhodes. We've long thought, or for a while thought that would be the SummerSlam main event. He threw Roman Reigns under the bus. He said it's not what he wanted, but it's what his family needed after Roman failed to keep the title. And so he's going to take it from Cody at SummerSlam. What'd you think of I was a little worried about Solo being in the ring without Heyman. So I actually think it was smart to do a video package, even though I'm sort of, a little critical of it seeming a little bait and switchy. So yeah, what'd you think?
I think it was an admittance that what the approach that has been taken with Solo serving in that in-ring promo capacity wasn't the best use of him. And I think that, first of all, I do think bait and switch would be the right word. I mean, I think,
okay.
Yeah. I mean, watching all night long, I started actually looking on Twitter going, did I miss something? Did I fall asleep? What happened? Where was the bloodline? And you could start seeing the trail of people responding, going, are we not getting the bloodline? Was there timing issues for the show? And then we have that maybe like a 2-minute long video that comes forth at the end. And was it enough? Yes, I do think it was enough. Wade, like you said, it was in that small amount of time, just jam-packed with information. You had the Roman Reigns piece. You had the Cody Rhodes piece. You had the reference to the 6 men that are going to be in the Money in the Bank as well. There's an inherent threat that's listed there now that you could potentially see some overlap there. It was interesting. It was the best use of Solo, I would say, in this role as being the tribal chief. There's something about him in the ring that fails. I don't know if it's his stance, if it's the way he wears the designer clothes. Something about it seems very kid dressing up in their parents' clothes. And at some point, the last time we were on the call together, we acknowledged that wasn't working. Well, now they've really doubled down and added in, now we have Jacob Fatu there. And they are trying to make this thing a real threat. And by doing so, they have to change the presentation in a way that actually accentuates Solo's strengths. And I think that's what that last bit of segment was. I also think it was an admittance that they didn't have too much else on the show they were working with. So they really just put something all the way to the end to keep the audience that would be there.
Yeah, as the take match progressed, Corey Graves is like, just a reminder, everybody, in case, I mean, the implication was you're bored with this or it's not holding your attention. Well, we've got Solo Sikoa coming up. I did like, by the way, we'll get into the tag title match in the next segment and the tag team title change. But I thought the video package talking about the history of the tag team titles was a nice touch. I thought that was just, I don't know how to phrase it. Like, it's something they easily could have not done. But they did it, and it made, it served to give a chance that more people would care about the tag team titles if you signal to the audience that you care about the tag team titles. And I don't think there's ever a downside to doing that.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. Even just watching that little segment, I thought they showed the dumpster match from WrestleMania 14, the clip of Foley and I think Funk or Foley and someone else going through the dumpster. And I thought, I would love to go back and rewatch that now. And then, but they were doing a lot of the little things, the references to the history of DIY to Toronto. And the little callbacks there, which made this match that would have just been otherwise seemed like a second-rate main event to SmackDown actually matter and make those titles matter. There are a lot, since the Triple H takeover days, there's been so much made about how long title reigns need to be. And the truth of the matter is they don't need to be that long. They need to be worthy. And video packages like that really go a long way to, allow reigns not to be as long and make the thrill of watching a match for a reign that's only been going on for 3 months more exciting and actually make the change matter. And I think that's what today did.
Yes. It's just, I think anytime that you celebrate the history of something, it makes what's happening today that's related to it feel more important. And that's always worth doing. And you can always debate, well, does it really make it, you shouldn't have to debate. It's a net positive. It's a net potential positive and no net negative. There's no chance of it backfiring. It doesn't make a big difference. I still think as a policy, stress, talking about what happened in the past and celebrating it makes people think that they're watching something now that will be celebrated 5, 10, 20 years from now, and you want to be part of that. It makes it feel more important. So, and you know, I say that from the perspective of watching enough wrestling promoters and promotions over the decades. There were times where wrestling fans, the type who are watching a show like this, listening to a show like this, were clamoring for it. They were longing for an acknowledgement of history. Don't just talk about today. Let's talk about this history that I'm part of, that I've read about, that I've heard about. And so it's a credit to Paul Levesque that that's part of his policy. Not that Vince McMahon was running from it in recent years either, but I think it's good. And it's also part of a strategy that, and I'd have to go back and just watch a SmackDown from 4, 6, 8 years ago, but it seems like they're making a consistent effort every week to make whatever their chosen main event is, the last match that's going to be on the show, giving it context and making it feel more important by talking about it often and then hearing from the competitors. And in this case, getting a video package on the championship itself. We saw that with the Intercontinental title earlier this year. So this policy is good. I want to pray, you know, I mean, we criticize a lot of things in pro wrestling and hopefully deservedly so. And with the spirit of trying to make things better and call out things that aren't working, but we should also call out things that are working. I like this.
Yeah, no, I think it was very good, and you know, it was good to pair it with a proper tag team winning the championship. This wasn't, you know, a pairing of random singles wrestlers who were going to be the tag team of the moment. DIY, you know, we've all been kind of assessing them this past year, going, you know, has their time passed? Was WrestleMania the time? How could they ever reheat that? They did enough. You know, the heat wasn't necessarily there for their entrance, but they got the crowd through the end, and pairing that with that video package, it ultimately ended up a more special night than maybe you could have predicted for them even a month ago. So I think all considered, the tag team championship itself had a better night today than it has had on SmackDown in quite a bit of time, and I think that's the good news when it comes to the championship.
Yeah. Alicia Phillips in the chat room says, I understand the bait and switch talk, but they went out of their way to make the tag team championship match seem like a big deal. And they did. I mean, it helped alleviate anybody who wanted to hear more from Solo. I don't know that people wanted to hear a lot more from Solo. And it, you know, it was an important week for Solo. You don't want him to drop the ball or look weak, or look like without Paul Heyman, he's just going to be lost. And so, and in this case, I think it was smart to protect themselves from him being out live in front of the crowd. Eventually, you're going to want to have him live in front of the crowd and look like he can lead a segment like that. And elaborate, how nervous are you about that possibility with Solo? I mean, I know you say it looks like, you know, he's playing dress up, but have you seen him grow? Do you think without having Heyman there that he has a potential to step up and seem more in command of this, you know, motley group of his stablemates now?
Well, first, I just want to address the bait and switch element. The problem was there was so much fluff on this show, and so many segments that went so much longer than they necessarily needed to, that it felt like they were purposely avoiding giving the Bloodline proper screen time that you would expect from a major act at this point, especially one that you've been, you know, positioning all show as coming up. So I think that's why it felt just off. Now, when it comes to Solo serving that role, Wade, I think the issue is they're putting him in a position to be a character that he is not. He could be very effective. He's actually a very strong actor when it comes to his nonverbals. His eyes tell an awful lot of stories. But they're making him be a promo guy when he can serve as the leader of the Bloodline without being that character. He can be the big bad boss who just doesn't say a whole lot. He can be, you know, the one who doesn't lose his cool. He could be the Vito Corleone. And instead, they're choosing to have him be this hyper-verbal version that, you know, does not fit him, it doesn't bring out his strengths. I'm glad there's one element of challenging him and pushing him to grow, and that is all well and good. I would say the stakes are too high at this point, and the group is too young to have it appear as the B team. Now, much of our conversations in the past have been about the new Bloodline avoiding being that NWO B team that we knew had been created over in WCW. And the risk has been there. And quite frankly, Jacob Fatu and his debut have prevented that. They've moved them out of that lane. But I think the presentation at the end tonight was ominous and dark enough that it did leave a lot more intrigue than a proper in-ring segment would have. I think what it wouldn't surprise me is if after DIY won that Bloodline beat them down at the end, left everyone with and some nonverbal threat. That would have worked too. I just think when I say bait and switch, it was literally all night long talking about they're coming, and you wouldn't really have any inclination from past examples of that it would be such a brief backstage segment.
Yes. All right. Very good. Let's pause here and introduce ourselves formally, the show and ourselves, and then we'll get on to more content here. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show on Friday, July 5th, 2024. I am Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter and the website PWTorch.com. Check it out every day for exclusive columns from talented writers, variety of perspectives, breaking news, live TV, pay-per-view, and PLE coverage, historical articles, flashbacks, all kinds of good stuff. Polls on key topics in wrestling that you can vote on, either in the main listing or on the sidebars. Go check it out and make it a habit, make it a bookmark, open a tab, whatever it is. Have it be part of your daily wrestling reading to keep up on things, and also just kind of stimulate some thoughts and read some opinions. I'm also the host of various podcasts, including the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show, which now streams live on YouTube after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, and is also available for download on our podcast feed. Just search Wade Keller on your podcast app, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other iOS or Android podcast app. You can also stream our shows from PWTorch.com. We post links to them. There are more shows on our podcast feed than we feature here on YouTube, including some good flashback shows. So be sure to subscribe, even if you're following us here on YouTube. That applies to our Blue Logo show. This is our Red Logo show, the post shows. The Blue Logo show is the Wade Keller podcast, which includes the weekly flagship episode, a wide array of a nice, cool rotation of hosts, and a wide array of opinions with emails on that show. And all you have to do is search Wade Keller. And why are you laughing at my plug in the background?
It was a cough that I was holding in, to be honest with you.
You've got a mute button, but I'm not used to doing this and then having your face off to the side peripherally. So it's throwing me off a little. But everybody, the Blue Logo show, the main flagship, and our flashback interviews. We did a pay-per-view preview show last week that was fresh with Eric Kroll before AW's pay-per-view. We did all that and more on the Blue Logo show, and that is not on YouTube. So if you're a fan of what we do here on YouTube, welcome, thank you. But you're missing out on a lot if you're not also subscribing to the podcast. So again, search Wade Keller, subscribe to the Blue Logo show and the Red Logo show. And while you're at it, search PWTorch and subscribe to the PWTorch Daily Cast. New shows every day on that feed with different hosts and different themes. WWE-based show, AW-based show, indie-based show. Really cool show called the PWTorch 90s Past Cast, which features a review of my Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter and everything in it from 30 years ago on the anniversary date of that newsletter. I could go on, but that's enough plugs for now. So let's encourage people who are watching us live to email the show. The way to do that is Wade Keller Podcast at gmail.com. It's on the screen for our YouTube viewers, Wade Keller Podcast at gmail.com. That allows you to just type out your email. It'll be in the inbox. It won't scroll off the chat as people in the chat room might have questions, and it might scroll off the page and I might not get to it. So the best way to be seen and have a chance to be selected for being on the show is that email address. It also allows you, if you're not watching live, to be part of the show. You can watch SmackDown, Raw, Dynamite, send us an email. We can include it in the show, but you don't have to watch live or listen to be part of the show. However, if you're in the chat room, we encourage super chats. If you want to have your questions stand out and make sure it doesn't get lost while I'm busy talking, super chats are encouraged. It's kind of a tip jar and a way to get a little extra attention on what you do. And if it's at all appropriate, we'll certainly reciprocate by giving you attention. But we do pay attention to the chat room anyway. That is not required. It just assures you of being seen by at least us. So check that out. We also, for VIP members and Patreon members, have a code that you can go visit. You can go find right now, PWTorchVIP.com. Check out my SmackDown report. In that report at the top is a link to joining us on the show with a video call. You can mute, you can block your camera and just do an audio call if that is what you want to do. There's no requirement to be on camera. And that is just for VIP members and Patreon supporters. We also post that over on Patreon. I remember to do it most of the time. This is new. Forgive me if I don't. If I don't, email me, tell me you're a Patreon subscriber. I'll email you the link during the show, so at least you can join us. And we have a couple regulars in the waiting room right now who will join us momentarily. With that said, let's introduce our esteemed co-host, Nick Barbati. He is a former co-host of a PWTorch daily cast, and now he is joining me here on the YouTube channel in rotation as a co-host, and also 12-minute hot takes. Nick, great to have you on the show. I am live from Studio C, C standing for cabin in the Minnesota North Woods. The mosquitoes are bad, but it is gorgeous, and it's been a fun 4th of July week up here with my family, and so that is why the background is different today, and probably the acoustics are slightly better in the room I'm in than the normal podcast studio, which is nice. And I know the internet's stronger. It's weird. We're in the middle of nowhere in a way, 14 miles off the shore of Lake Superior, not too far from Canada, but we got fiber optic cable running right up to the cabin, and it is so nice compared to what we get in the city. So Nick, welcome. Sorry you didn't get much chance to talk during this setting the table here, but welcome to the show.
Wade, I think that intro was longer than WrestleMania 35, which went about 2 days. So I was glad to be back here. You look great. You sound great. Everything is awesome. Always excited to be back here, Wade. I mean, when you can pin me down for a Friday night and to be here. Yep. I wish we had a better SmackDown to talk about, but I think there's enough going on leading into tomorrow night's show. Yeah, for sure. That there is enough interesting thing that's happening. But always, and look at the technology upgrade here at PWTorch. My gosh, we're here. We're doing video now. I think it's incredible.
I love it. It's great to have you on, and I think SmackDown wasn't a great show, but I think there's a good amount to talk about, and like you said, we can also talk about Money in the Bank itself. Right. Some of the stuff wasn't, Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker didn't have a segment tonight. Doesn't mean we can't talk about it. Kevin Owens with some news about his family, his mom being hospitalized, and we'll talk about that promo too. We got little footage of Sami Zayn's Sami Zayn and Friends comedy show, which would have been fun to see in person as a first ever thing, and more stuff from the show. So let's get to that. I said we'd talk about the tag team title match. So before we get to our video callers and emails and chat, Nick, are you surprised that DIY won? First of all,
so I'm surprised that as of a couple months ago that they were really a struggling lost act, and I don't know that too much has changed, but why I'm not surprised is WWE did enough, even just through the duration of this show, to really set the stage for them to have, a pivot in their tag team division that resulted in them being the champs, if that makes sense. It wasn't so much of a crowning moment for them after this, I think, this long epic story that was so exciting and thrilling for people to go on. It was a choice. It was a choice to change direction that they were the beneficiaries from. And I'm glad that happened for them. I think a lot of people that, they're the team that are very rootable, even if part of the rooting is, the vast history that hasn't really played out on the WWE main stage of Raw and SmackDown. I think with that said, I think this was a necessary change. I think, at WrestleMania to make, A-Town down under the champs was a very, it was almost like a Vince McMahon WWE thing to do, that probably in retrospect, it would have been better for the titles to have a strong tag team like DIY, a strong proper tag team, be that inaugural SmackDown tag team champion with that once they split up the championships. But I think this is a good direction. There was other, tag teams that were spotlighted on this show, namely the Street Profits, that you look at and you see, how much direction has been lost with them. And I think that with DIY, as I said before, when they came out, the entrance for them was mild. I mean, it wasn't incredible, but by the end, people were really rooting for them and willing them on. And I think they can build them up as that tag team that people really are getting behind, while simultaneously having the championships without having that chase element attached to them. Because I think that at some point the chase element was going on too long, that they were beginning to feel like a team that it was never going to happen for. And having people ask, why aren't they the championship? There must be more to that. And it was time to just give them the title and just do it. And your dog's going crazy, as is mine. So it's funny.
He might join. The cat just ran in, and I think that's what was bothering the dog. So the cat might jump into the picture too here, which is always fun. It's an adventure. Yes, it is. All right, it's all the cat's fault. They know how to get the dog all worked up, and he is easily worked up by cats. So it's always a game. Okay, so here's some chat room comments. Derek Hubbard says focus on all three tag divisions in WWE has been much needed the last few months. This is a step in the right direction, but only a start. Do you agree with that? What Derek's saying, that the focus on the tag division, because it was pretty heavily criticized recently just based on who the champs were. Two comedy tag teams, babyface and heel. It felt like a sign. It felt like an opening for AEW. Hey, you have a chance to make your tag divisions shine because WWE and Paul Levesque are sadly going down the comedy route. Give me your kind of big picture evaluation of the Theory Waller reign, and also what you think is good about the other title reigns and how they've been pushing them.
So I think the Theory Waller reign was more about building up the talent within that tag team, rather than building up the talent of the tag team division. I think that it was a resuscitating program for Theory in particular, and finding Waller something continuous to do. And I think with them having the championships, as I said, it felt like a bit throwbacky to not great days of the tag teams past. Yes, I think that the idea that the tag teams amongst WWE on the Raw and SmackDown rosters that they've ever been invested in the past couple of years is not true. I think, there's a lot more done right under Paul Levesque than had been done under Vince McMahon in his final years in charge. But one thing that I think has not crossed over that finish line of being a real success is the tag team division in any capacity. I don't know that there's been a lot of excitement. I think there's been moments where, especially when Paul took over, you expected the Viking Raiders to really have a thrilling run, and that didn't really happen. You really expected Street Profits to really have a whole new coat of paint on them that was going to be transformative. They've fallen down into obscurity. Then you just see other tag teams in general just, quite frankly, fail. And now I think hopefully now they're recognizing, okay, we certainly have gotten the main event programs in a strong way. The women's division has grown enough that now there's layers a bit there more than there had been for years, maybe ever, actually, now that I say that. And now it's time to put focus on the tag team division. Now, one thing that is fair to say about this booking team is you can't do it all at once and get it all right all the time. So I think that if this was the lowest of their priorities to tackle amongst the wish list, that's fine. But now it should be a priority. And DIY is only going to be as much of a success as the effort that's put into them, into having stories to tell, having proper tag teams to face, and having a tag team that's worth rallying, a tag team reign that's worth rallying behind. They can do all of that. Today was a good start. The ending was not undercut of their initial coronation. And now, we will see what's on the other side for them. I think there's, mildly decent options, but no tag team that I would say I'm thrilled and excited to see them go against. You're muted.
I think there's still absolutely room for growth when it comes to the tag team division. I was thinking while you were talking, what I think is a sign of a healthy tag team division is what you just talked about, which is there's tag team matches you're looking forward to and matchups that are intriguing, not just because they'll be good matches, but because you feel like there's tag teams that are important. They showed the Hart Foundation and Demolition and New Day in that video package, and there's the dog appearing, at least the paws in the ear. And what you want is a sense that ideally you're watching a tag team that in 5, 10, 20 years will be part of that video package again. That's one box to check. Another box to check is that the tag team division isn't just a championship team that you think will be part of history and remembered, and that the matches will be good, and that there's opponents you want to see them against. But that the tag champs and the division, but especially the tag champs, are a team that you believe are credible enough that you can put two people who are normally singles main event wrestlers in a tag team against them. That's one of my favorite things that happens in tag team wrestling. Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, for instance. Let's say, after the sixth event, they enter the tag team division. Would Waller in Theory before losing, would they have seemed like, oh, that's competitive? No. Waller in Theory were there a different purpose to bridge to something else. It's not the highest, and that's where people are coming up short. One, they're kind of a gimmicky comedy tag team, but two, they're just not credible in the way that they're portrayed and wrestle in the ring. They're not awful, but you just think, oh, Kevin Owens and Randy Orton would mop the mat with them. So what you want ideally are tag champs. Now, I don't know if DIY checked that box. They can tell that story. It might be a little bit of an uphill battle, but to me, that all those things together, I guess that's kind of 4 things, adds up to peak tag team era. And we're just not there right now. So they've got work to do. You kind of said it too. I don't know who that tag team is on the roster, who, if they get the belts, because New Day's kind of past their prime.
Totally.
Whatever, we could run down the roster, but that is what I hope they get to. But you know what? I'm excited for DIY. Ken Arnold says in the chat room, 2024 has been a good year for DIY. Yes and no. I think there's been some aspects of their characters that have seemed a little dorky, or dad's trying to be cool, in a way that just didn't work. I think the sitting on the ring apron and clapping, might want to retire that.
Right.
I thought Ciampa walking backstage and cutting a promo was higher end for him. I liked seeing that NXT version of Ciampa, an alpha with a gravelly voice, just going, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to go do it. So I think it's been an up and down year for DIY in terms of the presentation, their instincts, their characters. This is a surprise to me. I mean, I wouldn't have ruled it out. I just wasn't like banking on this being the week that this would happen. But I like setting the scene that Toronto is a special place. There's something in the air that says this might happen. They certainly set the table for it being good. So Ken Arnold continues. Great to see Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa have their moments. 2 lifelong friends have a chance to shine. I'm not for giving gold watches to wrestlers. I don't think just because fans like you and you've been around a while, you deserve a tag title reign. It's a business, and it's a business that makes more money when you give the fans what they want, the best option of all the options out there. Is DIY the best option of all the options out there? Maybe, maybe not. But if they, at this moment in time, Paul Levesque decided this is the right time to give them the belts, they should be getting the belts, not because they're lifelong friends or there's nostalgia for NXT years ago in Toronto. They should be being given these belts for a reason that I think exists, which is they're really talented. And if you give them the belts, it actually can elevate them. And I think fans will take them more seriously now. They'll put more TV time into them. I don't know how long they hold the belts. That remains to be seen. But I think there is a chance that DIY can, in this title reign, be buoyed by this show of this endorsement, this show of confidence in them, to have really good matches, refine their characters, listen to the fans, and maybe get back to somewhere close to how they were seen in NXT as a tag team. Nick.
Yeah, well, they need proper story. What you don't want them to turn into is a London and Kendrick type tag team, which is really good, really likable. They're a safe team to have the championship on, and that it wasn't just a tag team so that they could move Theory and Waller away from each other and have that be a feud. I think there's still a danger there that does happen. Can they hold up their end of the bargain from a storytelling perspective? And is the backbone there of a tag team division to allow that storytelling to move forward? Wait, in many ways, I think the tag teams division and the idea that there's going to be some great tag team division has always been fool's gold in my lifetime. And I say not genuinely my entire lifetime, but I was probably too young a bit for like the glory days of the late 80s WWE tag team division. And really my most live memory can be like the very earliest bit of the 90s. But when you were talking about having a tag team championship team that is worthy enough to go up against the main event, I mean, I think of that when what was it, Owen Hart and Yokozuna, which were a bit of a proper tag team for a bit of time, going up against Shawn Michaels and Diesel as champions, like that was main event worthy and something that was exciting to have, and felt like okay, that result could be a pick on. But since that time, I don't know of a tag team, proper tag team that has existed in a way that could be a threat that hasn't been promptly split up and actually given singles runs to. Because why would you keep them together? That's how the tag team division has been booked. So I think getting them in the main event slot tonight was important. I think it was a good start, obviously. I do, as I said, think that the DIY is likable. But now, I think too, what I find so disingenuous about the clapping and the patting each other on the back and all of that is we know that there was this extensive blood feud in NXT between Gargano and Ciampa, which was, I think, really exciting and really thrilling before it went a beat too long and the matches themselves were a beat too much. Yeah. But that's that layer of seriousness. And I think it's almost like, tapping into different versions of the character that would lean into more of those type of characters would be better for this time, for this period. The idea of the high school reunion, type run, it to me, it feels inauthentic.
Yeah, good points. Creighton Rab says that was a hell of a finish. I don't see too many championship matches end with a submission. That ending sequence was outstanding, in my opinion. What do you think about that? The near tap out, Austin. Like, to me, if your partner is trying to tap out because he's in so much pain, he's willing to lose the tag team titles, and you stop him from tapping out, I'm not sure that's a friendly gesture. I mean, you're tapping out because you're in incredible pain. I don't think you're looking for your partner to say, nope, you stay in incredible pain. That was so intense, you're willing to give up the tag titles because I don't want to lose them. I think that's not the friendliest of gestures, but this is a team that has teases of dissent anyway. But yeah, you had, and I think we've seen more of this recently, where there's all four wrestlers are in the ring, two people paired up, the rest paying attention to the legal wrestlers. That's all that counts. And he's not caring that there's two others next to him who aren't legal. He's staying focused on what is legal. And I actually like that. That makes more sense than going, well, two people are in the ring who shouldn't be. They're not interfering at all with two legal people, but I'm going to be preoccupied with that. So I like this finish. I think it's a cool visual. We saw it with Jade and Bianca, where they each hit their finisher leading to the sequence, and it's similar but different. So what do you think of the finish?
Yeah, it was a good finish. I mean, it was a good match. And it got better as the ending sequence, came in fruition. I think, the bit about stopping the tap out, I mean, that's WWE tag team matches. I think it was fine enough. It was good enough. But I thought, again, it was a good ending. It was something that would get you off your feet. There were enough near falls in there to catch you kind of going, is this one it? Is it going to happen? No, it's not going to happen. They're not going to. Oh, it is going to happen. Oh, yeah, they did it. Good. And that's the run you want to have for a tag team match of this caliber with very little story going into it. It gave you that sense of a mild surprise once you saw how the night unfolded, and it was a positive. And it wasn't trying to be something that it wasn't. This wasn't some hour-long marathon match. It wasn't the end of a long grudge feud. It was a good match to get things moving in a different direction, and that's what it did.
Well, how do you think they did in terms of telling the story of Theory and Waller and their dynamic? In the pre-show, Theory saying, I've got some issues. Johnny saying some things that make sense. Waller had a good counter argument. Hey, what kind of success did you have with Gargano? Did you win belts? Theory seemed swayed by the argument enough to move forward with things. In the match, a little bit of and I'm glad the announcers called it inadvertent, but they might make a big deal out of it. And then, so just what you think of the story beats as far as that goes, and where do you think it's heading? Do they have rematches or do they break up right after this?
Yeah, so I think it was good for today's episode. However, I also think it's gone on, even though they were tag team champions, I think the novelty of it went on maybe 3 weeks too long. I think that this was a very good move to pair them together to kind of give something for them both to do, in particular Theory, and to make Theory not have that stench of failure going around him. I actually think the tag team itself, the existence of, and the good dynamic that he was able to have with Waller resuscitated him in a big way from having that perception of the ultimate disappointment. I think if anything, it showed he's good. He's just not there yet, but one day he'll get there. Like that was like, I felt like the vibe that was able to be carried around his name. But at some point, it also just felt like there's nothing new and exciting that's going to be happening here. So maybe it's time to get away from it. I would have thought the natural step would then be for those two to then feud. I don't think that they're going to stay together as a tag team. I mean, there might be another match where they properly bust up, and that's the next the next iteration. And I think there's been much, I would say, that I've noticed of people expecting Theory to be the babyface moving forward, but I actually think Waller has more of the babyface qualities to succeed, and I don't think Theory is so likable. And even from your point about that he was preventing the tap out, I don't know that that's a hero's move. But I think either one, there's a case to be made for either one of them being the babyface moving forward in the feud. But what I think is they would have a good dynamic. They do have a good chemistry as tag team partners. I think it would translate over to a proper feud between the two of them. And I think it's time.
There's some chat in the chat room about DIY turning heel. Would that be better? Ashley M said, would a heel turn for DIY work better or not on the main roster?
I think it can happen. I don't know that right now is the moment to do it. I think that would be too quick of a whip around from the night that they just had. That would kind of give the feeling that WWE has no idea what to do with them, and then they're just drastically changing course. And I don't get the sense that that's right around the corner.
Ken Arnold just chimed in after we talked about DIY not having a great 2024, and just said that he thinks things are better for them this year compared to where they've been in prior years. Champ and Miz was with Miz 2 years ago, right? Gargano doing nothing much. There's work to do and a ways to go, but it's a start. And yeah, I agree with that for sure. I mean, if you compare it to what was going on in past years. Anything more on that you want to add on DIY or Great Waller?
No, I think we're stretching for much to talk about because it was a stretch to put this match in the high level of prominence that it was given for today's show. I think given that it was a title change, I'm glad that was positioned as the main event and it wasn't just lost in an earlier segment. But there really wasn't enough leading into it, really, for I think viewers to feel so emotional one way or the other about it. It's about the post story that they're going to tell.
Absolutely.
Make it important.
I like on the eve of a pay-per-view doing something that isn't on the pay-per-view that feels historically significant. They had 16,000, give or take. They announced 16,000 plus. They were certainly close to that legit, according to WrestleTix. They had a big crowd, and Toronto's a busy week. It's a busy weekend for WWE in Toronto. You want to deliver something. So I don't know if I don't think DIY should go down in history books that DIY won the titles because it happened to be in Toronto and an anniversary of an NXT win, and they didn't want SmackDown to feel unimportant to 16,000 people. I think they earned this through their body of work, and I think Paul Levesque genuinely thinks there's potential for them. But I also think that played into it. I think that wanting to deliver something of significance, and you look at your list of options, this is it. It works, in terms of I don't know how far ahead they planned this match in this title change. But when you look at the booking beats and what they have available, this just made sense to do. And I think it's a smart. It's not the only reason to do it. It shouldn't be the primary reason to do it, but it's absolutely a bonus and a positive to say, yeah, you people who showed up here and paid big money to see a 2-hour SmackDown where Solo Sikoa closes with a video. You got to see a title change that a lot of people weren't expecting. So I want to throw that out as I think it was probably a consideration and not a happy coincidence.
Well, Wade, I would argue with 16,000 people there, if that match did not feature a title change, I actually think the show itself would have been an unacceptable presentation for 16,000 people showing up.
Yeah. I think there's something to that for sure. All right, let's bring Rude Dog onto the show. Hendrik from Portland. Rude Dog, sorry to give you more warning. Welcome. I know I love that you come prepared and write your questions down. What have you got for us tonight? Oh, what's your T-shirt? We got to talk about your T-shirt. I know you put thought into that.
Well, not really, but this is it's not wrestling related. It's the band Goblin from the 70s. They're most known for. They were. They're most known for Italian horror movie soundtracks, like from Dario Argento, best known for Suspiria, Tenebrae, and Deep Red and stuff like that. So, I guess this is a bit of a deep pull, but I also have some Kevin Owens shorts on.
I see that, yes. All right, very good. Yep, with that you've always got something wrestling themed, even if it's not the T-shirt. But one of these days, if you keep video calling us, we're going to see the same T-shirt twice, and I'm going to be disappointed.
Nope.
So,
never.
You got all right.
I got a lot.
Deep T-shirts supply here. All right, cool. So yeah, what's on your mind about tonight's SmackDown?
Well, first of all, of course, hi Wade, but I want to say hi to Nick, and I missed the Intercontinental Adventure, and I really hope you get back into the more frequent podcast realm because you're always entertaining.
I appreciate it. It's very nice to meet you, and thank you for that. Wade, I think it's time for a show. I think I need to come back. I'll do it one by myself. Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Wow. That's quite the offer. All right.
Yeah, well, for the record, well,
you know how to reach me.
Well, you misinterpreted a message that I sent you. I said, how about if I do a show? And have you thought about doing a show? And I meant for me, and you interpreted it as me and you. And you were like, I'm ready to come back. So tag me.
Interesting.
Whenever you're ready.
Let's talk. Cool.
Okay.
Look at this, Hendrik.
So,
you're sparking some news here.
Nice. Well, now that the pleasantries are aside, I do have a bone
A
to
little
pick.
hurt too, Nick, for the record.
No, well, you're allowed.
My heart's a little broken. Yeah, I thought.
Yeah,
But
well,
go ahead.
He said he's got a bone to pick. You're
I
allowed.
do have
Go ahead.
I don't live in Portland anymore. I live in the beautiful state of New Jersey, which I've heard Nick talk trash about multiple times on multiple podcasts.
No.
And I mean, the city I live in, Highland Park, is just gorgeous. I live by like a 90-acre park with tennis courts and basketball courts and walking places, and baby deer walk around. I just had a baby deer.
Pickleball?
What's that?
Pickleball courts?
Yeah, sometimes. I think
it's not the 1970s. We don't need tennis courts.
Well, they do have both there. Folks here that like to play tennis. But why do you hate New Jersey so much? Is what I want to know.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. I live in New Jersey, so I don't even know how I'm being, criticized for. I mean, the swamplands of New Jersey are not exactly the most beautiful settings in the entire country, but I think New Jersey is just great. I live in Central Jersey, probably about 40 some minutes from you. So yeah, no. I don't dislike Jersey at all.
Well,
I love how Tom always got nervous when you gave out your coordinates too specifically, and then he just thought you'd like get stalkers and stuff like that. So, anyway.
Yeah, no, it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. I don't know what's going over there in the UK, where apparently they're gonna be worried about that. But so far, no.
Or
no
maybe
Jersey
Tom.
stalkers.
Maybe it's just a Tom thing. He just thinks it happens to him, so he thinks it happens to everybody.
Maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about Tom. Go ahead, Hendrik.
All right. So obviously, tag teams was a big feature of the night tonight, and you touched on the recap of all the great tag teams of all time. But one thing that I thought was really surprising, under the old regime, one tag team you would never see would be Demolition. And Demolition was basically forgotten about under Vince McMahon.
We say persona non grata. That's the fancy way to say what you just said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean. But
totally. I'm making fun of people who say persona non grata, not you.
But when I was a little kid, I think I was 7 years old. My mom was a seamstress, and she made her own a Demolition outfit for me for Halloween, and I was Demolition Smash. And so that I'd see that picture and it warms my heart, and she did my makeup and everything. But to see them being back introduced into WWE lore, they've never been in the Hall of Fame, which is hard to believe. And I know people thought they were just a ripoff of Legion of Doom / Road Warriors, but they always have a soft spot in my heart for me. So what do you think going forward? I know this is not a leadoff question, but Demolition, can they still be beloved in WWE with Paul Levesque?
Nick?
Yes. I think that this is an example of what I was saying earlier, where, when Paul Levesque took over, the light switch doesn't just go on immediately making good on everything that's gone wrong over the course of, many, many decades at this point. I think there was a picking and choosing of priority. And I think that, Wade, I don't know, maybe you would know more about me about if, the limitations put on some of the lawsuits by some of the Demolition members to WWE and how that would prevent them from even being in and being able to accept the Hall of Fame invitation. But I think that the idea of them having them be mentioned does go a long way, and I think, by the way, about them being ripoffs of the Road Warriors. I think looks wise and obviously the costuming and the apparel that they wore, sure, with the face paint, it leaned into them being the ripoff. But I would say that there's enough there and enough stories and great matches and feuds there that I don't know that that's the common person's view of them. I think if you were looking at the Powers of Pain, they reek more of a Road Warriors ripoff. But I think Demolition has just instead has been victims of just fading into memory. And I think that they've just become a bit lost in that era with the brain busters. And Wade, you're just like a dumb animal over there. I can't even stand it.
I don't want to get bitten by this mosquito. There's
Yeah.
mosquitoes up here this time of year, and
Gotcha.
I'm on the hunt.
Yeah, there's a lot of pests in that room. So I think that with Demolition, I think if you saw them tonight, you're going to see them again, and you're going to see them more and more. And if it leads itself to a Hall of Fame induction, which I think would be harmless at this point, they should do it. And I think with Paul Levesque, he will do it.
I mean, Demolition were created to be their Road Warriors, but it always was weird to me because they didn't look like the Road Warriors. I mean, they had Road Warrior ripoff music and they wore some spikes and stuff, but it's sort of like when someone does a cover, not a cover, they want it's like you're watching a show and they want to what's the analogy? When you recreate a hit song and you make it, you twist it just enough that you're avoiding copyright violations. It's kind of what Demolition was. But it turned out they were actually really good. There was a big part of the audience that hadn't seen the Road Warriors, because there was even then it was tribal and there were a lot of WWF only fans, and they just had good enough matches and good enough promos. Bill Eadie was a really well respected veteran. His days as the Masked Superstar were great. Now it's flying in my my eyeball.
But Wade too, to save this moment from you and the
got him. There he is.
Yeah, the animal lover himself over there, Mr. Wade Keller, ladies and gentlemen. So the thing with Demolition too is, first of all, when you're thinking about the '80s, that was the aesthetic, the look of the leather and the big hair and then the makeup and all that kind of stuff. And yes, so it might have been a ripoff, but they weren't treated they weren't mocking the Road Warriors by saying, "Oh, here's our version," and they were given obviously a significant run of success. So it was, yes, it might have been a ripoff, but also their style of wrestling was so different that just by having them out there, it wasn't a direct, I would say, what it intended wasn't what it became. And I think in general, they have two very different memory types surrounding each of the tag teams.
And no question, the Powers of Pain were much more of a ripoff. I mean, that was just, and they weren't good. Demolition was a way better tag team and made the gimmick their own, even if the original inspiration was the Road Warriors. Hendrik, Rujak, back to you.
All right, so since we're talking tag teams, how about the Street Profits? They seem like they've been spinning their wheels. Like B-Fab does literally nothing for their act. Montez Ford was once thought to be a possible standout single star. I don't know if I ever felt that way, but I sure don't now. I feel like there's more upside with Pretty Deadly, honestly, even though they never win. What are your thoughts on both tag teams?
Nick, I'll throw to you first.
Yeah, I thought it was a Pretty Deadly segment. I mean, I really did. I thought it was noticeable that both of those tag teams, to me, had just lost all forms of interest for me personally. I think you're right about the B-Fab thing. It actually stands out how little she does. And I was thinking that watching her today, first of all, she seems lost. And there's like a blankness that exists with her being there that didn't exist when she was with Hit Row, even though there was obviously the differences in talent level and whatnot. She doesn't quite, she's not performing up to the level that the Street Profits, I think, command. But Montez Ford seems like the days of him having the aura of a potential to be a breakout star, they seem to have evaporated. It doesn't mean it can't happen, but they've gone into being that a bit of a not quite nostalgia act, but they just passed their prime act. And I think Angelo Dawkins seems to have more interest in him now than even Ford does. There's a danger from having these tag teams have been around for so long with such little direction and such little motivation and whatnot, that things like these wonderful frog splash become ordinary because you're just seeing them in this tag team realm. And God knows this is where the Usos would be if they didn't have the Bloodline storyline to drag them up into being of such prominence. But this is the danger of that tag team division and how many years it was booked in such a way that it has been. But I don't see them, breaking loose and having any great grand run in the immediate future ahead of them. I really don't.
There's talking about Montez Ford being a breakout single star. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of that left right now. I mean, it doesn't mean that it still can't happen, but Yeah, I mean, there's sort of a window when fans are into
Mhm.
you and they believe that the company is into you, and if enough time goes by and you're hitting your obligatory running flip dive and
Yeah.
your frog splash, but it seems like you're going through the motions, and then you have a failed attempt to spark your act with some sort of heel turn that they just sort of halfway did and gave up on, and then it was ambiguous for a while. And I always think ambiguity leads to ambivalence,
Mhm.
or so it does. I percentage of the time, and not always, but yeah, just it's a bummer. I mean, I think they're talented enough to heat up, but yeah, I mean, Montez seems kind of like he's made a lot of money. He's got a lane he's in, and he just seems almost kind of content to do that. It might not be a fair representation of how he feels, but that's how it comes across on TV,
Yeah.
and it hurts the act.
Yeah, it's like
Hendrick,
the
yeah,
I was gonna say it's like the Billy Gunn after his failed singles push, which Ford didn't even end up getting, but it was
yeah.
then it just settled into we're a bit of the established tag team act, and that's just it.
Yep. All right, Rude Dog, back to you.
Well, what about Pretty Deadly? Where do you
Oh,
see
yeah.
them going?
They've been marginalized.
Yeah,
I mean, they just have. There
in a
was a
big
chance
way.
to define them early, and I'm trying to think who's a good comparison, singles or tag team, male or female, in terms of. I mean, Fandango's an obvious thing to
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
The
where it's like,
Beverly
oh,
Brothers? The
yeah,
Beverly
yeah,
yeah,
Brothers?
yeah. Hey, there's a good
kind of.
callback or good,
Mhm.
historic reference. Yeah, I mean, no. By the way, Ramus, all kinds of people who get pushes went through phases of being, um, sort of jobbed out on TV, and then they rev them up and push them again. That happens to a good number of wrestlers. It's possible, for sure, for the Street Profits, but especially Pretty Deadly, to stick it out for a while. They're new enough, get a hot streak, and as a promotion gets behind them, frames up that way, they get good wins. You can just have Wade Barrett on commentary, Corey Graves go, hey, they're on a hot streak. They were goofing off when they first got here. They've gotten more serious, or they've gotten more cunning, or whatever. I mean, you can tell the story that they were into being entertainers more than winners at the beginning,
Mhm.
more showman than tough, and counter that with booking. So I'm not giving up on them, but right now, nobody's looking at them as a particularly big.
No, they are what the Iconics were trending to be in the women's tag team division before when they were even prematurely released at that point. But
Yep.
at some point, it's like once the comedy bit surrounding them is like just past its course, then it just settles into that everyday kind of just run of the mill act, like the Body Donnas. We saw that there's a lot of actual tag teams that they fit that mold of, and it didn't end well for any of those other ones, and I don't think this is going to end so great here. And honestly, the worst thing that happened to Pretty Deadly was A-Town Down Under. I mean, it was that there was just another heel act
Yeah.
of better looking guys that are probably better individual wrestlers, and that happened. That blocked them in their moment.
And an injury, and sometimes there are things. I always say this as a caveat to any kind of second guessing. Sometimes it's an attitude issue behind the scenes. I'm not saying in any way I'm hearing anything about them. I'm just saying in a generic sense, when we go, why aren't they getting pushed? People wondered that about Keith Lee, for instance. Whoa, he was so talented on the indie circuit, and then he goes to AEW and has even worse problems than he did in WWE, and all the things that I said about due diligence and problems with him sort of manifested. And he didn't turn out to be, the grass wasn't greener for him over there, because he was the same things that plagued him in WWE, plagued him in AEW. So there's examples of that coming. Pretty Deadly, I don't know that that's, for sure don't know that that's a case, but you can't rule that out. You can go, they're so talented, why are they doing this? Can be all kinds of reasons, and sometimes time heals those wounds, but this could just be, this is a slot we need right now. We need as Triple H says, a backup shortstop, and they're our backup comedy tag team. They'll be starters someday. Don't panic. Rude Dog, anything else for us?
Yeah, one last thing. So they didn't really hammer it home today, but for the last couple weeks, they've been saying that the women's Money in the Bank champion, or brief holder, like wins 100% of the time. So that makes me think, oh, whoever's going to win this time is going to lose, just because they kept saying that so many times, even though I don't think they said it tonight. But so that just points me to Chelsea Green, and to have Chelsea Green be the first like women's Money in the Bank flop. Do you see that happening? Because I think there's plenty of time for Tiffy time. I don't think we need that right now. And even if maybe someone on the men's side cashes in, maybe even that night, it'd be good to have this heel, like, goofy thing going on for months. What do you think?
Nick, I thought, Chelsea Green had a talking segment tonight. I wrote in my report on SmackDown at PWTorch.com that it can be taken a couple of different ways. How did tonight's episode, Chelsea Green's involvement in the promo earlier and then in the match later when everybody got involved, what did that tell you, if anything, about her odds of being a winner who fails on her cash-in?
So I don't think that they go in automatically assuming that there's going to either be a cash-in successfully or not. I think part of the Money in the Bank is, even though there's much more pre-planning these days in WWE, I think the hope is that they can get somebody who can really benefit from having this briefcase enough to win the title. And I think it's Tiffany Stratton, and I'm sure of it. And I think that enough hints too have been put out there with her and her involvement with Nia Jax, because you see even the graphic for next week with Nia Jax was in a match, and Tiffany Stratton is literally in the graphic as her aside. Because here's the deal: then Tiffany Stratton will have the briefcase, and Nia Jax is the #1 contender for the championship. And then you have 2 months or whatever, month and a half of that kind of dynamic of these two friends who are both still in their own way the #1 contenders. And do they trust each other? Do they not? And I think that's the way it's going to be going.
Hendrik, back to you.
Well, that's pretty much all I had for tonight. Want to leave some meat on the bone for the other VIP members. So go VIP, and thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
That is kind of you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Always good talking.
Wade, any more dead bugs on your hand, Wade?
No, but if there are, I will show you now that you've drawn attention to it.
Perfect.
But yeah, it's not as bad as Wednesday night. I closed the screens that they sneak into a little bit earlier tonight.
Why are you there? Why are you there? What's happening?
It's our family cabin. It's 4th of July week.
Oh, it is. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's one of my favorite places in the world. It's a lake cabin. It's gorgeous. There's all kinds of Grand Marais, Minnesota, one of the named one of the best, named the best small town in America a few years back. And Lake Superior is gorgeous. I recommend people come up here. We get a lot of there's a lot of people who travel up here, and the weather is just great in the summer. I mean, it's like 69 to 74 degrees, and it's kind of the range that it's in. We had some great thunderstorms over the lake today, and
do you know?
we saw moose driving up right about a mile from the cabin. There was a baby moose walking or swimming in the lake, or in a kind of a marshy area, and then the parent moose, probably the mom, we almost hit it, and it stood there and stared at us, and it would, they can tip a car over. So there's tons of wildlife up here too. It's real fun.
Do you know Janelle Perzina? She's been in a ton of reality shows. She's from your area over there. She posts a lot about Janelle. She was on Big Brother, The Traders.
What part of Minnesota is she from? Twin Cities or the
I think
Arrowhead?
Twin Cities area.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. All right, cool. Okay, we got lots of people in the waiting room, and we're gonna go to a first-time video caller here, Mike in Jersey, up next.
Wow,
Mike,
Jersey! This is
crazy. Oh, by the way, before we go to Mike, just so we did you see all the comments about New Jersey in the chat?
No, I can't see anything.
Yeah, you have been busy, so let's providing analysis. So let's see. We had Michael Merkel who says, "Yeah, get me started on Jersey."
Okay, Michael, relax.
Walter Sam says, "I got mugged in New Jersey."
Big deal. That's like a rite of passage.
Michael Merkel adds, "I will run out of gas before I get gas in New Jersey."
They pump your gas for you here. Keep it moving, Mike.
Wait, that's still a thing in Jersey?
Yeah, I don't get out of the car, please.
Wow, that's kind of cool. I remember that as a kid. That was a thing. You could self-service or full service.
I can't see any quotes on any comments here, so you got to keep me up to date, Wade.
You can't. Why not?
I'm on StreamYard. I don't know. I can't see anything.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, you could probably do a tab and mute it and see if you go to YouTube. Anyway, in-house phones. All right. Let's go to Mike in. Oh, he's Mike in Hershey, Pennsylvania. What am I talking about? I screwed everything up anyway. Mike in Jersey had emailed me earlier, so I was off. Mike, I'm sorry for misrepresenting you. Mike in Hershey, welcome.
Yeah, it's all right, guys. I don't like Jersey that much either. So, these guys clog up our roads here in beautiful little
Oh.
Hershey, PA every weekend in the summer. So my kids are probably going to grow up thinking that everybody with a New Jersey license plate is like a heel. So it's crazy. We live like a couple minutes from, like the arena and like Hershey Park. And ever since there's like two major highways that come into Hershey, and everybody used to take those two major highways. And then there's like another road that's kind of like in between. And ever since like GPS started taking people wherever, the less traffic is, now it's like everywhere you go, the locals, we just can't get anywhere. And it's all New Jersey license plates. So anyway, it's all cool, Nick. We still love you, brother. So
I've never been to Hershey, so don't blame me.
All right. Well,
that AEW Dynamite is above my head. I don't watch that trash.
It's all good. So really, the only thing I wanted to talk about is I was actually hanging out with some friends tonight at where I'm going to have some people over for a couple families like guys my age, my wife's age, a couple families. We all have kids the same age, go to school together and stuff, and we're going to like watch some wrestling tomorrow. Hang out at the house and stuff. And so it's going to be fun, like an old school, just like wrestling party. But we were over at their house, another family's house tonight, and Smackdown was on a little bit in the background. And, the thing everybody's talking about is like Drew McIntyre. So it just seems interesting that, you've got these like, you have Carmelo, you have Gable, these tiny guys come out, right? And then Drew comes out. And so for the casual wrestling fan, you see this monster guy come out, and he gets, of course, like the last entrance, the biggest segment, which makes you think that something big is going to happen tomorrow. Wade, you've been talking about it for weeks, frustratingly. Part of us love CM Punk, but now we've sort of become we're like weighing who we like more, Punk or Drew. What do we want to happen here? Because I almost feel like Punk is taking it to a new level. I kind of went Drew would be a great champ. Punk seems to be just in line to screw things up. The big question is, how's that going to happen? I think that the SummerSlam match is probably going to be Punk versus Drew. At the same time, I almost can't stand to see Drew get screwed out of something again tomorrow. It's going to, so just one more time is almost like it's putting me over the edge. What do you guys think?
There were aspects of that opening segment that was very paint by numbers, parade of wrestlers, and all that. But the focus was on Drew. They didn't design that segment to get anybody thinking that anybody other than Drew was going to win this match. They could have done that. It might have flagged things too much. But yeah, Drew got to be the star, and he's good. There's a demeanor, a vibe that he gives off now that's just top tier heel. He seems to be enjoying himself. He walks up to the line more than I think people would have expected a heel Drew McIntyre character to do. Jay made a comment about it. So Drew bringing up, I'm surprised I let you in, wasn't really crossing a line or anything because Jay volunteered it. But I've enjoyed his character, and if you strip away some people's negativity towards the parade of people walking out and insulting each other, it's formulaic. I thought Drew had a good night. So Nick, your thoughts on what Drew did tonight, and also as Mike talks about the finish, or the winner, and does Punk interfere and cost Drew, or does Punk wait for? Is it better if you hate Drew McIntyre, if you're CM Punk, it's better to not interfere, and then if he wins, you get to cost him the cash in and humiliate him, which might be better than just costing him the Money in the Bank victory in the first place.
Yeah, it's hard because first of all, Drew I thought was just phenomenal in this segment. I think he is beyond brilliant, and he's just in this mode that like he's just hitting on all cylinders every single time he's out there, and it's almost the point where you can't even root against him because he's so good. And so when you were to say what is the ending tomorrow night, he seems so obvious, but he seems so obvious, and it just seems so obvious that he's the right person for it. Now, here's the thing. As that parade was going, I kind of thought to myself, I don't know if you guys felt the same way, like, this is going to be a good match tomorrow. Like, this is probably, I think, the most solid cohort of wrestlers for a Money in the Bank. And that can serve, from a quality standpoint, that can actually make, no matter what the ending is, a lot more satisfying by just having such a phenomenal match. I thought they went a little overboard with calling Jey Uso like a favorite so that he won't be such a favorite going in. I actually felt that knocked him down a couple pegs in terms of potential. And LA Knight, this does not seem the moment for it. That seems a bit, a couple months past. I think it is Drew McIntyre. And here's the thing. There is a cautionary tale, I think, with CM Punk serving as the disruptor one time too many. At some point, he becomes the bad guy in all of this. Now, if that's what they want, that's fine. I don't think that's the intent. I think he can be the troublemaker to Drew. He can be his eternal spoiler. But I think he's done it twice, and I think it twice was enough in this case. I think the next time Punk and Drew need to be kind of facing off, it needs to really be at a position and a man-to-man kind of level, like with Drew holding that championship or whatever that looks like. I think at that point, to have Punk just be the eternal, like almost like just child out there trying to like bully the bully, it gets too cute by half, one time too many. And that's just how I think about it.
Well, you don't see the chat on the screen, Nick, but Joshua White just wrote right as you said it, and I put it up. One time too many was last time.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think it was if it hadn't been over in the UK the last time, it would have not landed so harshly on people. But again, this is there comes a point where we were tearing this way a little, we were going this direction a little with the Bloodline before, and then you're with here where there are some of those old school WCW traits of too much heat being sought one time too many, where at some point there needs to just be movement in a certain direction besides just throwing heat on a scenario. I don't know if that makes any sense, Wade, but it's just, if people get annoyed too many times leaving a space, they're not going to buy the tickets. Now, WWE is on such a hot streak. That is like probably the least of their worries right now. But on this particular storyline, it is hot. Everyone knows this is the one-on-one match that everyone's been craving. And I think that there's no need to further damage the credibility of the feud.
All right, Mike, back to you.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is, so Wade, this is crazy, but Britt Baker made her return, on AEW recently. And the last time Britt Baker was on AEW, and I don't really watch AEW that much anymore, but I try to keep up with it through you guys, but was in State College, Pennsylvania, when she had a big match, and she was wearing all her Penn State gear. And that was the only time I ever went to see AEW, and it was great. And then all of a sudden she disappeared for 9 months. And also that night was supposed to be, CM Punk was originally supposed to be at that show, right? And so it was like a week before that or 2 weeks before that when he got fired from AEW. So this whole anticipation of getting to see CM Punk in live was for the first time in a long time was there, and then that got ripped out. So I finally did get to see him at WrestleMania in Philly. But the whole point is I've become a CM Punk fan again. But Drew McIntyre is just so much more. I don't know what the whole one time too many. I think that's probably what I'm trying to go with here. That's the thought that's going through my mind. And everything. The other point that I was just going to make, and you guys kind of made it already for me, was the one thing that's great about this Money in the Bank is this is almost as good as some of the major, pay-per-views or PLEs, whatever you want to call them. The anticipation for this one, because it's so, I feel like they're probably going to lead with that match tomorrow. And if Drew wins it, then we know he's said that he's going to do something. He's going to leave champion. So we feel like there's going to be this whole continuity through that show. So it's actually really exciting. I feel like that 7 o'clock till whenever it ends at 10:30 is going to be a great 3.5 hours. I'm looking forward to it tomorrow night. And it's pretty much all I had, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Mike. You just said something that I don't know why it triggered in me. I think it would be really good if Drew was able to outsmart Punk in some way, tomorrow night. Yeah. If Drew is going to leave tomorrow's show with the championship, which I think is a very, really real possibility, but also in doing so, is able to prevent some type of Punk interference. I think that would go a long way in terms of, having them feel like they're on even grounds at this point, and that Drew isn't some, schlub who's just waiting to get fooled every step of the way. I think that would be important.
Cool. Mike, good to hear from you. Thanks for calling up.
All right, appreciate it. I finally got in touch with this YouTube thing, man. So
we're bringing new people in, and we appreciate it. Thanks.
Right, thanks,
hope you video call again.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So just a reminder, if you have to be a VIP member or a Patreon supporter to get the video code to participate in our show. That way, as we get used to this and we don't get overwhelmed, and we kind of, make sure that it's, people we trust, or hopefully that's well earned trust, our VIP members. So find the link at PWTorchVIP.com. Hope you're all checking out my SmackDown report. As I watch SmackDown Raw and Dynamite, I write up a report and also add analysis when and where I have time and when I have thoughts. And that can be a good primer for this show. I also, by the way, as a VIP, speaking of VIP membership, as a perk for VIP members and Patreon supporters, I read my report after I finish these post shows and put them up as a VIP exclusive rundown of the show. And like Mike said, he follows AEW through the torch. A lot of VIP members and Patreon supporters follow us, follow the shows they don't have a chance to watch through me just running through my TV report. I had extra analysis than what's there, but it's a way for you to say that night or when you wake up, there's 20-minute give or take, just start to finish summary of what happened on the show. Not everybody has 2-3 hours to invest. Sometimes you watch some of it, but not all of it. And if you are a fan of these post shows and listen to it, but we're talking about things you don't really know, like what happened, and you haven't had time to read a report, you can actually start with the Wade Keller hotline. In 20 minutes, give or take, you're set. You know what happened. You know my thoughts on a lot of the minutia we don't get into this show because this is more big topic. I'll make little asides and little comments on different things throughout. And then you can go into the post show being totally caught up. So lots of reasons to go VIP. We plug different things. I don't plug that as often as maybe I should, because I hear from people that that's actually a real valued perk. And it's encouraging that people like that format. All right. So let's go next to Derek from Utah, and then on deck, I believe Jason from Australia. And then after that, don't worry, Sean from Tennessee.
Is this on video, people?
Yeah.
This is so cool, Wade.
I know. Isn't it fun?
Wait, before you go on, I want to say, did you do a review or recap of the WrestleMania documentary?
I all day today, I was like, I want to carve out an hour and watch this, and then do a hotline reviewing it, and because I've just been doing fun stuff with family up here, so I'm working long hours and I'm getting heat for it, but I'm also trying to fit in some fun stuff, and I just didn't have time to add an extra hour to my schedule. So
I have thoughts.
Oh, interesting.
It took 2 months for a particular reason.
Cool. Well, hey, let's do
I'm not saying nothing.
Maybe we'll do a 12-minute hot take reviewing that show.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Todd Martin talked about it on the Fix at the top of the Fix. Martin. I know you don't. I
care about him as much as he cares about me. Keep it going to the next one.
But he did give his thoughts on it, and so VIP members can check that out. We recorded last night. I recorded the Fix instead of watching fireworks, but that's fine. All right, Derek, thank you for calling. Derek, what's on your mind about tonight's SmackDown?
I guess my comments about Solo. I heard your guys' opening discussion about him, and I think tomorrow was a really, really big night for not only him but the Bloodline as well. And there has been some rumor about him getting the SummerSlam match against Cody. And if that is the case, 2 questions for you guys that I'd like you to discuss is, do you think he's ready for that? And do you think that tomorrow he has a lot to prove to ensure that he truly is ready for that opportunity at SummerSlam?
Nick?
Derek, I think it's a dead-on observation. I think it's actually, It totally spot on. Now, I noticed something. I don't know if you guys noticed. I feel like the graphic for tomorrow changed at one point. It was previously Solo, and then the Tongaloa, and then Tama Tonga, and then they replaced Tongaloa in the graphic with Jacob Fatu. So it seems like the trio tomorrow is going to be Jacob, Solo, and Tama would be the 3 that they're putting up. And I think you're right. First of all, I do think that, and I said it earlier, Derek, I don't know if you were there on the call when I said that. I do think in the past couple weeks, especially with the Jacob Fatu character being added in, there's been a resurgence of seriousness, a credibility that's been re-added to the group, and I think it's in flux. Here's what I think they're in danger of tomorrow. I think they're in danger, and I think people have been predicting this way before I even knew who Jacob Fatu was, that he's going to really be the one that overshadows everybody in the match. He's got a spark to him, obviously, a snap to his moves, and just that chaos that seems to surround his presence, which again, was not familiar with him prior to his debut in WWE, but he certainly stands out as a much more interesting character than Solo by a big margin. I think tomorrow is make or break for Solo in many ways. I think it's entirely possible that we get to SummerSlam without Solo Sikoa in the main event. If someone says this feels too fluff, this feels like Solo's not ready for it, and I think that can come without some disastrous performance. I think it just comes if he feels too mid-card, too ordinary, and if he's just being set up to lose to Cody. I think that overall weakens the bloodline by even having him in that position. If he's not ready for it anyway, and I think they really need the bloodline to be at a point of strength.
I think they have a lot riding on how Solo looks without Paul Heyman around, both on the microphone and in the ring. I mean, he's now the leader. I mean, it's there's all kinds of analogies to this, but he's got to step up, and I think there's going to be a ton of storyline support, and the Bloodline brand is good. It's a heavy weight. It's a burden to carry and try to live up to, but it also is helpful. I mean, there's writers and support making this work, but it is an ensemble team, even if Solo is the leader. I think it's right, for Solo to lay out the challenge for Cody. I think you want to do Solo first. Jacob Fatu is someone you want to put more into, and maybe he ends up being the main guy and the biggest threat to Cody eventually. But right now, Solo's the guy who's been interacting with Heyman. He's been the guy who has been, he was a carryover from the original Bloodline, and he's certainly going to be involved when Roman comes back. So yeah, Nick, I see you.
No, well, because I hear you, and I don't mean to undercut what you're saying with
no
questions, but I'm going in my head thinking, I can very much remember back during the invasion angle of sorts when Rob Van Dam debuted, and he certainly was in position to be any main event talent, but he was so different and so connected to the audience, had such a drawn reaction to him, that he ended up eclipsing Booker T and DDP and the others that were in that angle, and was immediately main eventing shows come September and October, whatever it was, against Steve Austin and Kurt Angle, I think it was, in triple threat matches. I just think that it's entirely possible that along this way, he's going to appear too basic, for lack of a better word. Now, let me ask you this, Wade. There's been certain significant chatter recently about him having his own wise man. Is there, do you have any names that you think would be effective in that role, or do you think that they should move forward without it?
I mean, you could have Haku. You could have.
No.
Well, I'm just throwing out names that have been dropped. You could have Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Beyond that, I don't really think so. Yeah.
Well, I meant to carry the promo element of the work as clearly that would be important. I don't know.
No. Yeah. Derek, what do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't replace Paul Heyman, especially for this matter. Anybody who replaces him will be seen as a lesser version of him. And I think that's dangerous whenever you're looking at the first Bloodline versus the new Bloodline, is if you have a redo and it's lesser, it feels lesser. And I think no matter who you put as the talking piece, they're not going to be at Paul Heyman's level. And so I would be cautious with that. I thought what they did tonight, though, in portraying him instead of the mid-ring promo, but doing the backstage with the dim lighting, I think that's effective, and it gears towards his strengths, where he's one of those characters who he's at his most threatening when he's talking quietly, very poignantly, slowly, almost to a whisper. And when you have that and you can appear threatening doing that, you never really have to yell. But when you do, that's going to carry even more weight. And I just think, I can't remember whose comment it was, but they asked, they could see Solo getting the pin on Cody tomorrow.
Yep.
And to me, it's not only can I see that, I think if he is going to be the challenger at SummerSlam, that needs to happen. He needs to pin Cody, and it needs to be in dominant fashion. And I think then, to most people who see him as the threat, he becomes the viable threat for a big event, that being SummerSlam.
And they have to do it. They have to do it in the right way too. I mean, Solo needs to. Solo needs to look good, and he needs to have a strong victory over Cody. Are they willing to give that to Solo in order to promote SummerSlam, or not? I mean, I think it's the booking of that finish is going to be really interesting. I mean,
yeah,
because how confident are they that Cody can take a clean loss? Do they want to spend one of those on Solo, or do they want Solo to be, a challenger, but not someone that you think is really, really going to be the guy who nobody thinks Solo's going to end Cody's reign at SummerSlam. So do you really need to spend a Cody clean loss in order to present that match when you have all kinds of storyline support that can make up for not having a decisive clean win? There could be a turn. Kevin Owens could turn, Randy Orton could turn, something could happen with outside interference, and they could do shenanigans, and then it doesn't give Solo any credit other than breaking rights, but not extra credibility as a threat to Cody. So I just think there's some interesting booking choices to make. It's not my job to focus on what the best choice is, and they have all kinds of more information than we do in terms of where they want to go and at what pace. So I'm just kind of leaning back and going, I'm going to enjoy the ride and see what choices they make and try to analyze it and read into it. We'll be doing a VIP roundtable afterwards just for VIP members that I'll be hosting. We've been doing that for 20 years after pay-per-views, and that'll be up for our VIP members on our podcast feed and VIP site. And that's one of the key things I want to talk about besides who wins Money in the Bank is how is Solo coming across in now that they've dropped on the video that he's essentially challenged Cody to a match at SummerSlam. I mean, that's connecting the dots if it's not just explicit.
yeah.
And I go bold.
Do you know?
Well, Nick, I'll throw to you, and then Derek, remember your thoughts. You both were kind of wanting to chime in.
Well, Derek, the only thing I would say is why I don't love the idea of Solo defeating Cody tomorrow is to set up SummerSlam. Is I just feel like we've seen that storyline twice now. One was last SummerSlam at Money in the Bank in a multi-person match. Jey Uso pinned Roman Reigns ahead of that SummerSlam match. That feels a bit of a rerun for me, but literally we just saw it at WrestleMania over the course of the 2 nights. Cody gets pinned by The Rock, and then he goes into the second night weekend. I just think that, and maybe that's just the formula now, but I think just that's 2 recent examples of being too recent of examples as to why they don't do that. I think here's what I know about tomorrow. There's going to be a clean winner in each of the men's and women's matches, Money in the Bank matches. And there's also, I think, a strong likelihood of a change at the world title level. I think this 6-person match can and most possibly will end without a decisive winner and can suitably end with a proper beatdown viciously of the bloodline of Cody Rhodes in a very bloodied, over the top kind of way that then will lead to SummerSlam without him actually being pinned.
Yeah, I would just say go bold. If you're going to have him be SummerSlam, depending on who you ask, is either the second or the third biggest event of the year. And if you're going to have a world title match at SummerSlam, it needs to be a big world title match. And how do you make it a big match? I think you have to give Solo as much credibility as possible. And the best way to give him the credibility that I think he needs, not only for himself, but for his faction, is by pinning the champ. And I think, Nick, I didn't even remember the 2 examples that you brought up with Bloodline storylines with Cody losing, which I do think is a good point. But I think revisiting it with Solo is probably more important because I don't think the mass of the fan base believes that he's at that level. So you have to do more work in getting them to believe that he's at that level.
Yeah, I agree with you. I definitely think they have major work to do.
Well, that's all I got, guys, and I got to go to sleep because I'm old.
So. I got to go too, but I think Wade's got me running a marathon. Wade, you're muted. You keep trying to talk over there.
I'm trying to. Yeah, sorry. You're not off the hook, Nick. You gotta hang out a little longer.
If you bring in Javier Machado, I am leaving. I am not staying on for that. I don't care. There's no reason for me to stay on at that point.
I'm just trying to leave before he shows up. That's all I'm saying.
Wow.
Take me with you, please God.
Wow.
No, he's a good dude. Besides what's with his background? It looks like he's sitting in a dark room by himself. That's lonely and sad.
Well,
Derek, spoiler, he's sitting in a dark room, lonely and sad by himself.
Well, we all are in various ranges of light or dark room by ourselves. If we're podcasting, we're likely very, very much alone. Javier's wonderful. He's the new co-host of Acknowledging WWE with Kevin Duncan, and they're having a blast. Charlie Kate about due to family obligations, and I know Kevin is a lot more excited than you are, Nick, about working with Javier because Kevin can't hide his excitement of and the chemistry he has with Javier. So that is on the PWTorch Daily Cast. Check it out. Acknowledging WWE dropped yesterday.
Javier knows his stuff. I am not saying it's like, but after a 2-hour marathon, when you get Javier Machado laughing at you and bringing in all the receipts of everything you got wrong, it's kind of like, whoa now.
All right. I know when you were co-hosting and then we did a long show and then Javier shows up and there's another 35 minutes of you listening to him. I get it. I get it. You're East Coast. All right. Thanks, Derek.
Thanks, guys.
You bet. We're having so much fun here. All right, let's bring in Jason from Australia. He is audio only. Jason, people have been calling for you to go on cam, but that's totally your decision. I'm not going to pressure you. Just letting you know people are eager for you to join the video side of things. What's on your mind about Smackdown tonight?
My setup here is not the best as far as camera is concerned, so I'm sorry, people. You're just going to have to listen to my voice. Now, I'm going to take this hint that Nick said about I'm not going to go on for 35 minutes here because I know I can ramble, but I'm sort of taking the hint there. But I have to disagree with a couple of things you were talking about. Now, I agree with Derek. I've forgotten those examples that you brought up, Nick, in relation to challengers getting pins over the champions leading into big matches. Because my mind automatically went to 1996 with the International Incident pay-per-view where you had the 6-man tag between Bulldog, Vader, and Owen versus Shawn, Sid, and Ahmed Johnson. And Vader got pretty much the clean pin against Shawn Michaels leading into the SummerSlam match. I feel like Solo needs this victory against Cody to establish himself as a legitimate threat. I've been very happy with Solo. And what I like tonight, we saw another element of the story here. This is the first time he's openly had a go at Roman Reigns for failing. And they showed the footage of Roman spearing Cody, but Cody kicking out. So for me, the next element of the story is that Solo is going to pin Cody to show that he can pin Cody and get the job done leading into SummerSlam. I think this whole thing with delay, this is going to play into it. My mind thinks that we go back a couple of weeks ago, Solo said to Paul Heyman, Roman ain't coming back. And then Heyman said to Solo last week, where did you get that as far as delay is concerned? It wouldn't surprise me if Solo had sent Jacob Fatu to find Roman and pretty much beat the crap out of him to say, hey, this is the reason why he's not coming back and this is how we got delayed. So to me, I think there's a couple of extra things they can tell here, which further builds up Jacob as a killer. I don't have an issue with Jacob sort of outshining Solo on screen because I think you want that dynamic. Solo is an imposter. We are not meant to think he's on Roman's level. We're meant to think that he's below him and he doesn't deserve this spot. And to have that sort of unpredictable psycho in the background under the leash of Solo, knowing that in the future he could be unleashed on Solo because we don't know where it's heading, I think that's a nice little long-term story at play there. Gentlemen?
Nick, what do you think of that?
Yes. No. Well, no, I think, Jason, you make all great points. I mean, I think, first of all, I very much hear what you're saying with regards to, using a comparison to 1996 with Vader and whatnot. And I think here's what I know about Solo right now is I think the Solo we saw tonight and the Solo we saw last week are different versions of Solo even from 3 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago. I think there has been a clear pivot in terms of recognizing that he was off track. And I think that you're right in that saying that he was, he's supposed to look like an imposter because he is an imposter. Yes, but he still has to be worthy of being at a certain level to be a threat. And it still needs to be something that, as an audience member, you are just like, beside yourself, that you can't see this man, reach this threshold of being champion. Like that would be a bridge too far. But he also has to be at a level for when Roman Reigns returns and that they have a battle, that he's worthy of that rather than just being someone to be steamrolled over by Roman. I think there is a lot of change going on with his character, and there is an expectation that I think he does need to step up to a certain level with. Again, I hear you guys in that, the clearest path is for him to cleanly beat Cody tomorrow or just beat him, period. And I say, I hear you. I don't disagree with you. I think it's something they've gone to the well with a bit too much recently, in particular with Cody and the Bloodline on a much bigger stage. And I just don't think you need to rerun that. I think you can get there with it in a more creative kind of way.
All right, very good. Jason, back to you.
I understand what you're saying, Nick. It's like they could go either way because, in fairness to you, if Solo does pin Cody, then people are going to automatically assume that Cody's going to get the pin against Solo. But
you got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But then
exactly
sometimes, yeah, you're right. I know. But then sometimes, do you forgo that people predicting that to tell a better story? Because look, on any objective level, it just makes sense for Solo to get that pin so people can sort of suspend their disbelief and say, well, if he got that pin against Cody, Cody's very, very vulnerable. But I know you could go either way with it. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do. But like I said, this whole lay business, look, nothing happens by accident. Paul Heyman saying, where did you get that? Where did you get that? I'm just led to believe, and when Solo said he ain't coming back, that they did something in the background of Roman, which you're only going to find out later. Now, I found this very funny. In relation to Drew and CM Punk's the babyface here. I don't know what you guys are talking about. And I'll give you a chance here to fire back at me. Let me tell you something. Drew McIntyre said that he prayed for something to happen to CM Punk. All right? He prayed for... Now, that's involving the big man upstairs, whether you believe in it or not. Okay? Now that's pure hater. Now, that is... If I said to you, Wade or Nick, mate, I prayed for something bad to happen to you, you'd be like, what the hell, man? You get in a plane, you fly to Australia, you find out where I was. I'm like, hey, man, what are you doing praying for something bad to happen to me? That eclipses everything. Because CM Punk said he prayed on Drew McIntyre because Drew McIntyre prayed for bad things to happen. And let's not forget, CM Punk hasn't left Drew McIntyre in a bloody mess. He's just cost him. He's trolled him, cost him title matches. McIntyre has gone out of his way to leave him bloody. He's done damage to Punk. He's prayed for bad things to happen. And then we just saw a couple of weeks ago, he left him in a bloody mess. CM Punk is very much warranted in his attacks on Drew McIntyre. So I feel like he is the clear babyface in this situation.
He is the clear babyface from the perspective that you just laid out, Jason. But some people have a different perspective, which is, and I think it's a minority. And CM Punk had good chance in Toronto tonight. It wasn't Chicago. Fans are still on his side in big numbers, but Punk got injured from a conventional move in a match. It wasn't Drew doing anything dastardly. Drew, as a heel, afterwards said it's like when terrorist organizations take credit for things they didn't do. They want credit for something that they had no part of because that builds the fear that people have in them. Drew is just being a wise guy. He's going, I prayed for this to happen, and it did. He didn't do it. Now, once Punk was injured and already out of WrestleMania, Drew did attack him again. I mean, that absolutely is heelish. No question about it. Of course, he's meant to be the heel. But you can understand Punk, like, he was already out of WrestleMania. He was already hurt. Drew beat him up. It happens in wrestling all the time. And now to just be obsessed, the idea, and one of the concerns I had, and we did a 12-minute hot take here on the PWTorch YouTube channel on it, is Punk being booked in a way that played into his reputation from AEW, which is a guy who just can't let anything go. Everything, he overreacts to everything. He takes one situation and instead of reacting to it to scale, he reacts to it out of scale. And so That's the concern. And and people sort of chuckle at this, and fine if you want to do it, but a world title match on a PLE should have some, like, there should be some reverence towards that. If you're a babyface, you should go, all right, this isn't my time. Like in the NHL, if you want to fight a player who took a shot at your star player, you don't skate on the ice in the Stanley Cup Finals in a game that you're not even part of. You're on another team, and then just attack somebody, and then the whole game is off. People paid their money to see these two teams play to the end. Punk interfered in a world title match, influenced the outcome, and that is where people make the case he went too far, and he can't let it go. Now, Jason, I don't say this. When I say your perspective makes a good case, I'm not being smartass about it. I mean, it really is. I mean, I get it. But the way Drew has been booked and the way Punk has acted, there's some real life foundation here, even if you're not aware of the real life stuff that is sort of paralleling. There's enough there where someone's like, all right, Punk, we get it, but stay out of our world title match. Find a different way to get revenge. Nick, I want you chime in on this, and then Jason, obviously you can respond.
Yeah, I mean, you used the perfect word of him being the troll, and eventually, no matter who you are, you get sick of watching the troll do the trolling. At some point, the troll becomes the bully. And I would say, and also taking into account that he didn't just ruin the championship match and, ruin Drew's chances at a championship match. He ruined an experience for everybody who was in that arena at Clash at the Castle. And so if you're watching, no matter where you are recognizing that Drew was very much being cheered as the babyface by that crowd. So to then kind of say like, he was just ruining it for the heel and that was a beloved decision. Nah, it just doesn't fit. And it's going and embracing that bit a bit too far. But also say, I was listening to, they did a Mick Foley on the Bruce Pritchard podcast. And they were talking about back in the day when they did the Mick Foley, Jim Ross segment, which was ironically when Mick Foley put the mandible claw on Jim Ross. And that move ironically turned Foley babyface, even though it was the complete opposite of what you would think hearing about the fact that Mick Foley was attacking Jim Ross. And it was because too much of what was being brought up about why the Mankind character was what it was based on sympathetic attributes. He was the kid who was basically picked on and bullied and neglected as a kid, and that now it's created this person as an adult. Well, Drew McIntyre, at one point, yeah, sure, he's done evil, dastardly things, but you're also watching dastardly things be done to him too. And it does have an impact on how people perceive him. He's not being viewed at this point as a 100% heel. No one thinks that. And he's also just operating on too good of a level for people not to have that level of appreciation attached to it.
Jason, before I chime in, Joshua White in the chat, and I put it on the screen here. Praying for bad things to happen to someone isn't as bad as making bad things happen to someone.
I don't believe that, actually. I think it's a cute thing to say, Joshua, but I think but I think they are both equally as bad.
Equally bad. All right, cool.
I do. I think if you have bad thoughts about someone, it's actually how you treat them.
All right, cool. So Jason, we said a lot. What do you have to say?
I see what you guys are saying, but I do believe. Look, when you say I'm praying for bad things to happen to you, that first of all, that means that you don't want to do it yourself. And second of all, that's evil, right? That's evil. I'm not saying that Drew is evil. And look, his character, obviously, he was saying it may be in a bit of tongue in cheek or whatever. But I just feel, and look, this is the thing. There are people that would be in my position too that can see CM Punk as the babyface here, and Drew McIntyre has been such an arrogant, two-faced person who thinks that he's right in everything, that he actually deserves what's coming to him. But I see both points of view. Now, to me, if they end up doing a swap down the road where this turns CM Punk heel and Drew McIntyre becomes a babyface, I'm all for that. Because at the end of the day, I just want to be entertained by great characters and good stories. So I don't particularly care, but I'm just saying how I don't think CM Punk is necessarily the bad guy in this situation. To your point, Wade, where you're talking about that they're kind of bringing up things about Punk, which a lot of people have criticized backstage or part of his character. If I'm CM Punk, I want them to do this. CM Punk is trying to prove to everyone that he wasn't the issue in AEW with the Young Bucks and Hangman Page. So if I'm CM Punk, from a psychological point of view, I'm actually feeding Drew McIntyre things to say about me that people would assume that are weaknesses and sore points about me, but I'm having him push onto that so then I can say to everyone, see, I wasn't the problem. I'm willing to make money with the things you think that I think I'm very sensitive about, but I'm actually not. CM Punk comes out the winner here in real life because at the end of the day, wasn't he willing to put everything behind it and work with the Bucks, but they didn't want to? He's telling them, you can make money with my sore points, but you chose not to. Now Drew's doing it, and he's doing a much better job. CM Punk, he's on his best behavior, and he's like, hey, people think that I take things too seriously? Go for it. You want to attack me here? Go for it. I'm just here to have a good time and to make money. And in the back of my mind, prove these other idiots wrong. So I think CM Punk's a very smart guy. He knows what he's doing from a psychological level.
Nick, what do you think of that? Too much credit for Punk or plausible?
No, I think it's plausible. I think Punk is proving the point. It's like, would you pose nude for Playboy or pose nude for a trashy, magazine or like, you know what I mean? Like, I think you go for the highest end quality. I think if you're open to doing something. Is this a decent? I'm getting tired. Wait, is this a decent?
I was just like, where's this going?
It's going somewhere. Meaning, like, you do think you are willing to be at your most vulnerable in certain capacity if the payoff is worth it. If you're just doing it to just do it at a very low level, low quality, I mean, then no, the payoff's not there, and you're just damaging yourself for no reason. There was something there. I could probably be more articulate tomorrow.
You kind of made sense of it. Let me bring up a super chat. Thank you so much, Lady B. A theory: Drew wins Money in the Bank, cashes in to make it a triple threat. Punk attacks Drew. Rollins wins, pinning Drew. Priest leaves JD without getting pinned.
Judgment Day
without getting pinned. Thank you. So Drew wins Money in the Bank, cashes in to make it a triple threat. Punk attacks Drew. Rollins wins. I'm repeating this because there's a lot there for our audio listeners. Rollins wins, pinning Drew. Yeah. Priest leaves Judgment Day without getting pinned. Interesting. Your first reaction to that, Nick?
I just think Drew comes out looking much weaker than he needs to, and it doesn't help Priest in any kind of way. And I don't know. I think everyone comes out looking a little worse for wear in this scenario.
It would make a lot of news. A lot of people create a lot of buzz. That's not a reason to do it. But I'm just saying factually that would be an outlier amongst the popular theories. Jason, how about you?
I actually like that scenario because you can tell Priest gets kicked out of the Judgment Day when he actually didn't get pinned. Drew gets screwed over again. Seth gets the championship, so you lead to Seth and Gunther, which is what you want at SummerSlam. And they've already teased that with that face-off. So I kind of like that scenario.
I'll inject a downside as I kind of let this soak in. One downside is Seth Rollins wins a championship because Punk weakened Drew for a pin. And also you're having a title change hands without the champion losing. And those are a couple things that concern me about this scenario for the lineage of the title. I mean, I'm not a fan of a title changing hands without. It happens all the time in triple threat matches. I'm just saying, do you want that in the men's world title picture to have a relatively weak champion in the sense that people didn't have Damian Priest having a run of multiple months as world champion on their bingo card coming into this year, not actually drop the title? And does that hurt kind of the lineage of it, especially if now Seth regains it only because of Punk weakening Drew?
I don't think it hurts the lineage of it. I actually think for me, reading this at this point in the night, I kind of like the option where Drew wins Money in the Bank, cashes in to making it a triple threat, and then a Punk attack goes wrong and costs, he's accidentally trips up Rollins or whatever and adds Rollins into this world of the two of them, and Drew wins the title. Everything that he says happened, that was said right there, I think she said outlined with Priest happens, but that Drew has the championship, Punk didn't get what he wanted, and now Rollins is pissed. I think having the three of them intertwined would be interesting.
So Ken Arnold adds to this discussion we're having in the chat room, that feels, looks, and sounds way too overbooked with that finish. Drew looks a bit weaker, and Damian Priest and Seth don't look as strong. Another chat room comment, 27 Newsman says, Drew has been heelish by telling unpopular truths and acts pretty honorably to other characters. Punk is his nemesis and happens to be popular as well. I'm a fan of both, but I side with Drew in the feud.
Yeah,
so Jason,
Usman,
yeah, good chat room. We got smart listeners and smart chat room, with an exception or two, but I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to call you out, but raise the bar. The bar is high. Anyway, go ahead, Jason.
I think that's great. People see things in it. Some people are going to side with Drew. Some people are going to side with Punk. Ultimately, the majority of the fans are going to be trolling Drew with the CM Punk chant. But like I said, if they tell a long enough story and it leads to them swapping roles where Drew turns babyface, I don't know if he wants to do that, and Punk goes heel, which I'm dying to see. I mean, I was really hoping to see a CM Punk heel turn in AEW when we never got that, where he turned heel and MJF turned into babyface. So we could have had like a Punk 97 Bret Hart against a Stone Cold like MJF. We never got to see that due to the injuries. I'm all for that. Either way, I'm happy, Wade. I'm just giving a point of view that I think at this particular time, CM Punk is warranted. Before I go, because I know Sean's waiting and I feel bad taking up his time, whatever.
Just feel bad for Nick. He's tired.
I know, Nick, you're very tired. You know what? Like over here, it's like 11:58 in the morning, and I'm just kind of waking up. So you're falling asleep and I'm trying to wake up. So we're at opposite ends here. But in any event, in relation to the tag teams and Austin Theory, like you, Wade, and unlike Todd, I'm a fan of Austin Theory. But I think in order for him to solidify this apparent babyface turn, which I think they're heading towards, he desperately needs even a backstage segment with John Cena, because this is a cold babyface turn. If they're going through it, and it looks like they are. No one is clamoring for Austin Theory to turn babyface based on his character or whatever. Mm-hmm. If this is going to work for him, John Cena pretty much emasculated him and tore him to shreds in that promo where he said, "I don't believe in you." Now, Austin Theory got the victory against John Cena at WrestleMania, but it was kind of like we're just going to add that to your resume type of victory. He didn't really go over like Solo went over John Cena. There's a difference. You get a win, but he didn't go over. If we just saw a little segment with Cena after Theory's officially turned face, and Cena happens to see him and say, "Look, you're finally getting it. I believe in you now." And he holds out his hand and Theory shakes it. That will do more to get him over as a babyface more than anything else. But I think he needs that because I think people still remember Cena really obliterating him on the mic, and they have to make up for that if they want Austin Theory to be a top babyface moving forward. And I think with his moveset, and I think with his personality, and I think he can get there, but I think something like that has to happen. And just with the tag teams, if you're going to help solidify DIY, that they need to be tagging up with, say, they need to be in six-mans with, say, with an LA Knight or a Cody Rhodes. They have to be associating with top guys as tag team champions, because even just having the tag team champions associating with top guys, you are bringing up the prestige of the tag team title. So we need to see a six-man, a DIY versus, with LA Knight versus maybe a Bloodline or whoever, or Cody. They have to be interacting with top guys, because then the tag titles and DIY get that rub.
Ken Arnold says in the chat, that John Cena promo and WrestleMania win didn't really do much for Austin Theory. I still feel like his brief interaction with Steve Austin the year did a little for him, not a whole lot. Briefly, Nick, what is the upside trajectory for Austin Theory?
Well, what in the long term? I think it's still extremely high. I think when I watched him today, I think he looks like more of a star than everybody else on that show, and I think what you don't want to get is him to get to the point of someone else we spoke about earlier, of the Montez Ford, where at some point, then all of a sudden, he's just settled so much into his look and his moves and everything. He still, to me, has a spark to him, and I think that this is a very important moment for him to exit that tag team now. As I said earlier, it was a pause that needed to be put on the upward push that he was getting that didn't seem to match how he was being received. I think this is a bit of a reset. I think he's matured quite a bit. And I think in the long term, I still think he's a star there. He's still someone, if it was my money, that I would bank on, say much more than I would Montez Ford or someone else who would be someone that you're just waiting to break big. I thought that interaction with Cena was shameful. I think that it was purposely hurtful, and I don't think you have to be mean to get someone so inspired. I think you can find different ways of doing that. I agree that he didn't walk away with the benefit of that, and I think it was obvious that work did more to affect his confidence in ways that there was just nuances difference to his approach to things, and it wasn't helping him mature. It was actually setting him back quite a bit. I think that a segment backstage like that could go a long way, but I would be curious if the real Austin Theory would even want it at that point.
Danny Tushido says in the men's Money in the Bank match, if it goes on early, that's a huge indicator of what's going to happen in the World Heavyweight title match. No. So, match order, yeah, I mean, that can indicate things. I don't know if it's the first match, but it's just if it's before the world title match, which I think it will be, right, Nick?
It will be, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think so. I think
one
it's
way or
fair
the
to
other.
say that it will open the show, actually. I think that was a reasonable suggestion.
I think that's reasonable, too. I mean, the women's could, and then they do Sammy and Braun, and then they do the men's, and then they do Bloodline, and then they do... I mean, yeah, you can make a case for various match orders. I think they should end with the world title match. I mean, I think you want that belt to go on last to give it a little boost image-wise.
Wait, what are you most looking forward to tomorrow? What match are you most intrigued by?
It's a cop-out answer, but I actually think this is the women's Money in the Bank's probably last, but I'm not intrigued by it. But the Sammy and Braun, I think, is a pivotal match. Yeah, I mean, I honestly, that's the one that because so much there's so much going on in that match in terms of Breaker. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I don't know what the right choice is. And I think Sammy, people think he's going to go back into the Bloodline storyline, which very well may happen, but might not. And maybe he just keeps the IC title. But to me, it's sort of, we talked about this intrigue of Solo in the 6-man. I'm really intrigued with how Braun Breaker does. Solo needs to step up about Heyman in a lot of different ways and be the leader of that group. Braun Breaker's got to show he has. I mean, so far he's better than he was in NXT in a lot of ways. I think they've figured out a lane for him to be in. It's still a work in progress though, but tomorrow night is a big part of that progress. But honestly, I think Damian Priest and Seth is going to be good and intriguing. Men's Money in the Bank, whatever they do there is going to be fun. And whether it's Tiff time, which is most likely, but also possibly Chelsea Green, I think there's some stuff there too. Jason,
I think men's.
go ahead, Nick. Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was going to say with men's Money in the Bank, I'm very curious to see how Andrade does, and most especially Carmella. I think this is we're headed.
Carmelo's.
I know,
not in a good spot.
But if he has a strong performance, I
Yeah,
don't think he's
true.
going to win. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about like the quality of work, and he needs a confidence building night. He really does.
Yeah. All right, Nick, I don't know if it fuels you, but we still people are hanging out. We got over 500 people watching us right now, different platforms, and so even though it's late,
really?
Yeah.
Wait, nah.
Yeah. So
all right.
I'll send you the screen capture of the little tally here.
I'm just
well, you don't know. You sounded like you didn't believe me, so yeah, I'm gonna.
No,
I
just have no idea. I didn't know.
Yeah.
See, you know what they say? Wade sex sells. That's why I'm here. I'll start stripping if I need to.
I thought that's the VIP extra after show. Invite only.
Yes. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
Hey,
PWTorch after dark. Yeah.
Jeez, it gets late, and we get Playgirl references and what's
Playboy, Wade, get your head out of the gutter.
All right, let's go back to Jason. Jason, what's on your mind?
VIP extra with 3 X's. All right, that's it. I'm out. There you go. Yes. Hey, man, this script writes itself. Anyway, I'm going to go. There's other people. I'm out. Good talking to you both. Enjoy the show. Thanks.
I was just thinking of Shawn Michaels and the whole Playgirl stuff back in the day when you brought that up. Yeah. All right. So
remember my brother's friend was so excited to bring me the Sable one.
Oh wow.
Couldn't have cared less.
Definitely. I can relate. Yeah. All right, let's go to Sean in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Welcome, Sean. You've been waiting a long time. Nick is excited.
I know. Do you see what they did to you? They had you in there for so long. I feel ashamed.
This is normal, Nick. Nick, this is a normal thing. Don't let it fool you.
I brought you on first before Sean. Wait, I try to rotate, but you in fairness, Sean has said, take me last. I'm fine. I'm going to watch anyway. So, in courtesy to others, I just Sean volunteers to go on late.
And I will say, because the chat's been talking about it, and it's funny because we're going long, and I know you have to get this off.
We're going normal. This is normal. It's normal for our YouTube era here. Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is, it's just such a good thing to have all these people that love wrestling and just want to talk about it. I think it's just fantastic. WWE, AEW, maybe not as much, but still a lot.
Wait, pause.
And
I
it's
just
good.
want to express myself. I have done this show with Wade Keller where it has gone until 12:45 a.m. and didn't complain. I am coming off of a night where I had this puppy who had diarrhea all night long,
no.
and every 2 hours, and I still woke up and she made a mess on the floor. Don't you people judge me. If this was a better show, I'd be not this show, the SmackDown show. If it was a better show, I would be much more excited about this show right now. That's all.
Fair enough.
And Wade,
I was
you're
gonna say-
sending me stuff, and it's causing me to delay over here. Please.
Oh, sorry. I just sent you the screen capture of our viewership total. I just wanted you to
All right, let me go see this.
to be energized.
All these people better follow me if that's going to be the case, Wade.
Well, how do they follow you?
I don't know. At Nicholas Barbati after this. I don't know. You know what?
Follow me, but I have no idea how. All right, Sean,
And I'll
come
get-
on. What are you thinking?
Well, I was gonna say too, real fast, guys. If
I
you
like that
haven't
picture.
on the chat, if you didn't get to go watch Nick of Tom's Intercontinental Adventure, I'm assuming most of them did. But if you didn't, go back and watch them. They're still fun even now. It doesn't matter if you've seen it or not, or you know about it or not. It really doesn't matter. It was just a great show. I was glad to be on it a few times. Nick, thank you for having me on a few times, and Tom, of course. It was a lot of fun. It was a great show. You got to have either your own show or with somebody. It doesn't matter. It's got to happen at some point. I mean,
Yeah.
it just has
Well,
to happen.
Sean, you heard earlier, I'm ready to come back. I told Wade, so I am. I'm ready to come back. Let's do something. There were some great evergreen episodes in the Nick and Tom's archives. So for sure to go take a look at. We did a lot of profiles on careers, and especially, unfortunately, when there was wrestler deaths, we did a lot of shows that I think hold up really, really well. When Undertaker retired, there was an exceptional show. So, I think people should go back and check that out. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah. So about the show, so I'm with you as far as Money in the Bank excitement. I mean, the most excited I've been in a while as far as the whole show. Braun and Sammy is my most exciting intrigue match for me. I'm excited about that too. That promo stuff Monday was fantastic. Love what Braun's doing so far. Going back to what we were talking about earlier, when at the beginning of the show when they do the parade of challengers, which is again, I don't like it. It's just reboot over and over and over. Wade, tell me a way where they can do that, where you can still talk about what Money in the Bank would mean as far as getting a title shot. Do they just do vignettes? I know they want to get them out. They can still have them out somehow, but I just feel like I know they want to be out. Like Drew's going to be out there, like he's going to get the reaction, but I just feel like you could still do a vignette of some kind to show how much that means to you without just having the same segments over and over, just talking about Money in the Bank, because I just, it's played out. It doesn't get me excited about it. I mean, I'm already excited, but that doesn't get me excited. There's got to do something else has to be done. There's got to be something else different they could do. What do you think, Wade? What other things could they do?
I mean, they bring the Royal Rumble. We get the stats video. I think they do it just about every year, and sometimes repeat it more often than not. The Money in the Bank has been there. So much has happened, and the late to the torch Tom Collahue had great just recall of modern history of WWE, and would talk about he just could list his top 8 Money in the Bank finishes and go into detail on everything. Not everybody can. I mean, the Money in the Bank has been this up and down. Yeah, Sean's like, I can't. There's been so many things that have happened. Part of me thinks drawing attention to the history of Money in the Bank makes a little bit of an absurdity of the gimmick. It's wonderful, it's fun, and I enjoy it, and I wouldn't eliminate it. But it is ridiculous that somebody gets to be champion. The most prestigious place you can be in WWE, based on cashing in a briefcase when somebody is down. I mean, so part of drawing attention to it in the way that maybe they do with the Rumble draws attention to the ludicrousness of it as a concept and how much it undermines the credibility of people who have held it. Maybe that's a concern, maybe not. But I don't know. I mean, Nick, what do you think? What do you think they could do to help Sean in this case?
Well, I think given the nature of how the full roster of Money in the Bank contestants aren't really fully figured out until like the week before the show. I think that, it's a played out gimmick, but you could save something like this of where they all sign their contract or whatever like that, and get them all in the ring for the first time ever before the big Money in the Bank match. there's no thing that they can't. It's not like the Royal Rumble where they can get their entry number or anything like that matters. To be honest with you, I don't think they need to be in the ring together at any point. Actually, I think that it takes a little bit of the novelty of seeing them in there. I think the idea that they debate is weird, like leading into it. Now, one thing that I think is undercooked, and that used to make a much bigger deal of it in the early days, which, by the way, Wade, I don't remember Tom having such a long memory on finishes, to be honest with you.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I will say this, one thing we would have debated, he and I, is there used to be more of an effort in, are you going to pre-announce when you're going to cash in, or are you going to be one of those wait till the weekend moment for the champion cash-ins?
Right.
And that is diminished too much. Back when RVD did that in advance, that was part of the conversation of Money in the Bank. Just like it should be part of the conversation with Money in the Bank is, are you going to save it to WrestleMania? I think that there needs to be more of that type of conversation with Money in the Bank. Give the viewers more options of what they can expect out of whoever holds the briefcase, rather than just being the cheap win or looking for the opportune moment. There's a lot of other things. They could have been, Drew McIntyre declaring at the next Clash of the Castle or something like that, where the next time a wrestler's in their hometown, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's just more options that I think are creative, that when you have the contestants before the match, you ask them, how they're going to do it. I don't know. These are all stretches to find, something more interesting. But I do think it is a more interesting thing that they can do with Money in the Bank.
All right, Sean, anything else?
Yeah, I got a few things. I'll try to go as quick way because I know it's late.
We should go
I wanted to bring up Jey partly to Nick, because I know Jay's over with the entrance, but he's cold. He's cold in his character. This Yeet thing is just not doing anything for me, Nick. It's just not. I mean, it's just boring, and there's nothing. I know you love him, and I do too. I love Jey too, but not if he wins Money in the Bank. I don't think he will, but I just think what can they do to get him back other than just going back to the Bloodline? Because I just feel like he's in a rough place other than just getting reactions when he comes out. I just don't think his promos mean a lot. I don't think anything means much right now with what he's doing.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, I think I miss the Jey Uso that I did love. I wouldn't say I love anything about, anything I've seen probably since the SmackDown before last year, SummerSlam. That's really how long ago it's been since I've been really enjoying the work of Jey Uso. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think some of it have been for the sacrifice of the larger Bloodline movement. I think it's certainly the sacrifice of Cody Rhodes coming on the come up. And I think it's choices that have been made by the wrestler that have put him a little bit more on equal footing as maybe someone who shares the same DNA as him, as I've said before. I think there's a subliminal thing about, not outshining, your identical twin. My siblings are twins. I see it. I know it. I'm there. I'm telling you.
Interesting.
So I say all that to say, here's what I do think. He's getting bigger checks now than he probably ever has in his entire life. I think
That's true.
I think Yeet is working. You see the shirt sales. You see all of that. And I think even what he's doing with how he's repeatedly now wearing the same imagery with the glasses, that's an action figure. But that's an action figure, Sean. And you have to understand that they're playing a long game with that. He is someone that you can phase in and phase out now when it comes to the main event picture. He's not at 0% likelihood of winning tomorrow. I'm telling you, he is higher than that. And he is someone who would be a serviceable champion. So I just think he's on pause without not being on screen. I think there will be another day for him. He's too good for there not to be. But I've long said he is the WWE's version of Sting, which might sound crazy, but I'm not talking about Crow Sting. He is their Surfer Sting, where there is something very likable about him. He does have a lot of emotion in his eyes, and he does I'm viewing it as the Sting that I knew. So I don't want to say if you're saying no, I don't see that. it's just how I view things. I started watching WCW in '95, and at that point, he was kind of past the days where he was at a main event level. Then he was kind of treading water at the mid-card, upper mid-card level. It was just likable. I think that's where I know Jey Uso to be right now, and I hope he has a second wave of a character. But what I also think is when the start of the Bloodline storyline happened and how it evolved, I felt like he was fed that program. I would hope that Jey Uso, as the man, as the wrestler, is crafting his next stage after Yeet has run its course. And from Sean, what you're saying is it's already there. But I do think, again, I think the world of him. I think he's so good, and I think he needs to run away from being constantly linked to his family, because that WrestleMania match did real damage to how people perceive him.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And going back to just DIY, I do love everything they did to try to build it up. I wish it could have been built up more over time, but I thought they did a good job tonight to do what they could to make it feel, like you said, like a big deal. And I hope they do more with them. And going back to KO, I mean, I loved KO's promo. Like, I thought it was phenomenal. It was kind of sad in some ways listening to him talk, because even though he's still a big star and we still love him and he's still done a lot of great things in WWE, I still think they left a lot of money on the table with him. I still think there is so much they could have done. And it's just always sad when I hear these great promos that he does. And I'm like, man, it's not that he's in a bad spot, but I wish Vince wouldn't have ruined him, because I think he could have been better than he was. I think he could have been such a bigger star. I mean, he's still doing, but that was my thought. And then the last quick thing was, they had the women come around during, number one, they didn't need to have Bayley and Piper Niven wrestle again. You're just defining down Piper Niven even more. I mean, Piper Niven, again, I know they don't think so, I guess. Piper Niven is so good on the mic and in the ring. And I just think it's just a travesty, I think, what they've done to her. I think Bayley needed to win. If you're going to have Bayley wrestle, either you have a crap finish or Bayley's got to win, because that's just what they had to do if you're going to put a match on. But I feel like she's really been hurt. So what do you guys think about Piper? And is there anything they could do at this point? It feels pretty low, but is there any bar they could climb with her now?
Nick, what do you think?
No, Piper's done. The fact that we got past Clash of the Castle and, no, she's done. It's cooked. Sorry, not happening. Bayley is the one who I think you need to really be worried about here. I mean, I think that as champion, it's just like, this is brutal. I got to tell you, I don't know that she's doing herself a whole lot of favors either, though. I mean, if I'm being fair, I mean, there's not a whole lot. I'm not sitting there going, look at all this incredible work she's doing. How are they keeping her so low? She looks bored and she looks boring.
I asked somebody who knows her in WWE if she was bored with this career, and I was told no, that she's still enthusiastic. But I was like, and this was a while back, but I mean, that there's not a spark to what she's doing. There's a professional, execution of what she's supposed to do, but she doesn't seem hungry or excited to me in what we see.
No. I think if you were to juxtapose her against Tiffany Stratton and who looks more excited and more dynamic to be there, I mean, come on, it's outrageously different. I think even Nia Jax looks so engaged. I mean,
Nia looks good.
These are strong contrasts to Bayley right now. We are speaking against conventional wisdom, and I'm not fearful of doing that if I think, I hear good things or I just see things differently. And yeah, I mean, not being a fan of Tiffany Stratton's not like, going out on a limb. People see her as a future star. Nia Jax has proven herself this stretch. I mean, she's been really good. And, Bayley, legacy women's star, very important in the last, 10 years of WWE. But, she's fine. I don't watch and just go, oh God, get her off my screen. I don't think she's polarizing. It's just there's something that isn't there with her that you hope would be. Yeah. So maybe post champion, there'll be something there, but I don't know. Maybe it's just that spark isn't there anymore. I mean, when you've wrestled in as many big matches as long as she has in WWE, you have reached a savings account in all likelihood without some aberration of a gambling problem or bad investments in a shopping mall or something. Right. You're likely set for life. You don't have to work anymore. So that usually isn't a factor with wrestlers. They usually wrestle until they can't or they're fired. But, I don't know that there's evidence of real hunger there. But
maybe she's just wanting to do something else and waiting for that time to come, and then things will kick in. But the chat room is not disagreeing with us. JC Scooby says Bayley is boring. Ken Arnold says, I think Bayley's happy, but it does seem like something is missing or not clicking. She's still a good wrestler in promo, but something is slightly off. Yeah. I mean, it's not it might sound like a burial. It's not. It's just, she doesn't seem like there's a real spark to what she's doing.
There's not a spark to her wrestling. There's not a spark to her promo. She's not as athletic as she used to be. There's a lot there, and you it's okay to acknowledge those things. Again, it just is.
Yep, and having Naomi's not really helping in any way, because Naomi's just not. I mean, again, nothing is Naomi. I don't have anything against her as a person. She's just not good at really what she. I know she worked on Impact, and she probably did really well. I didn't get to see it. I heard a lot of great things about it. It's just when she came back, it's just like, this is what we're getting. This is the new Naomi. This is the same Naomi. This isn't new at all. Nothing's changed. So that's all I got, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, thank you. No, so Nick, I consider you a friend, man. It's always a pleasure when I get to talk to you, man. And Wade, your roundtable is going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to listening to it. It's going to be a fun weekend. Appreciate you guys as always.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it. The VIP plug is on the screen for anybody who wants to go VIP. It's late. I'm not going to do a verbal plug other than say pwtorch.com/govip for our audio only listeners. Nick, Naomi, I saw you react to that. Comment on that.
I never liked her. I mean, I'm sure she's a very nice person, so it's not on the person. I think the character is annoying. I hate the moveset. I hate the emphasis on her rear end being a weapon. I just think it's degrading. I don't love it. And I just have never seen a promo that felt anything bit of authentic. And I just, nope, bye. Not my favorite. Yep. Not my little favorite. Not my, just, no.
Yep.
I hate the rear end stuff, Wade. I really don't like it. I think it was just, ugh.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to just close out zipping through a couple email comments, Nick.
Go ahead.
Yep. So we got Milo from Los Angeles. What's going on with Candice and Indy? I was scared when they left Raw for SmackDown that they wouldn't get focused on. Now they have lost to Jade and Bianca for, I believe, the 12th time in a row tonight. Both Candice and Indy just seem to be the heel female jobber team with no real push or any focus coming up. Do you think there's any hope for something better than this role for them? Are they being out-pushed, or is this just a good way to use them? I mean, Indy Hartwell has been leaned on to do more, going back to NXT. And I mean, I think she's a character who is underexplored in terms of her range and what she can do. Candice LeRae, I don't know that she's in a bad spot. There's no shame in being in the spot that Candice is in. She's not, whatever determines a main event wrestler, she just doesn't strike me as that. And I don't think they're under-pushing her. But I like her in the role that she's in, and I mean, that's an important role to have. Nick, you're nodding.
Yeah, I think they're just in a placeholder moment in their careers. I don't think it's bad. Just they're on screen, but you got to remember the women's division size is not infinite. They have to be able. They're at a point where they're just not being focused in on, so they're gonna be used to focus on people. They're still on SmackDown. They still had a long segment of a match. And they had a full entrance too. It wasn't like they came back from break and they were in the ring. I think they're fine, but this is where wrestlers as actors make choices, and they need to find their moments of opportunity and really get in there. They should be individually working on character work. If they want to be a tag team, work on developing that on their own, creating opportunities that are not going to be created for them. And I think there are going to be opportunities for each of them. They're needed. I don't think they're not needed to be there to fill out the roster, but hopefully there's something better that creative has for them. But also I would challenge them to create something more for themselves too.
Milo's second point is it's also sad that Bayley has spent the past month doing very little before the Nia match. I feel the same way that Liv has done nothing from a female wrestling point of view since beating Becky for the title. She's all over Judgment Day, but has no real challengers until Rhea comes back. WWE has so many women on the main roster, and in NXT, I feel like they're not doing great with female talent on the main roster these days. Your thoughts? Nick, your thoughts on a broader women's division and the points Milo makes?
Was he saying Nia is not doing great, or was he?
No, Liv.
Yeah. Okay. Broader.
Let me interject. I think that Milo's saying from a standpoint of being a champion with challengers where it's about the title, she could easily not have the belt. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Well, here's what I think. I think there's growing pains when the group got as big as it did, because it is big. They have a bigger women's division than they have maybe ever had, and there's going to be the figuring it all out. And now I do think getting the women's division, first of all, for Raw, they had to greatly pivot from what they thought they had, which was going to be Rhea Ripley there when there was an injury there. So there's going to be shifts in plans. Folks are going to be in different storylines than they would have maybe initially been. And also, there's also some people that are a little bit more, they are more adaptable with having opponents that work really, really well with them, but also are they more dynamic? I think Bayley is someone who adapts very well for whoever she's in the ring with, but I don't know that she's the most dynamic person. In fact, we know she's not. So you're sacrificing one for the other. I think the depth of the women's division, there's a lot of people there. Doesn't mean necessarily they're on the right brands, they're interacting with the right people, or so on and so forth. I think they just need to figure out the chemistry, because I'm not sure the chemistry is always there. And some of them are great characters, but maybe not great main event world championship level wrestlers. I think we really need to get to the part where Ripley and Flair are back, and Lynch, I guess, if that comes to fruition. There's definitely a level of the folks at the top stature that need to kind of that are missing. And also, I think Bianca Belair is being wasted at this point. I think it's time to break her away from Jade. She seems like she's doing too much babysitting in there, and she would be better used in the actual main event of the women's division. Oh, wait, we can't hear you, bud.
I think having Jade and Bianca off to the side in the tag division is good, but they need strong challengers for them. And then I think Tiffany and Nia might be that. Even with Money in the Bank is in play, they could do that. I think having Jade babysat is actually kind of important at this stage for her. And if people get intrigued with a story, and they can't do it while they're doing the Waller Theory thing, but it'll be similar in some ways to that if they break up and one of them turns. I'm intrigued by that, and I think you could go either direction with it. Obviously, be a spark to the Street Profits, and I know they don't like to generally team up married couples on TV for whatever reason, and I don't mean that to sound judgmental. It's just they have their reasons. But Bianca and the Street Profits as a heel threesome is intriguing to me. I'd like to see Bianca as a heel. I think I'd enjoy that more than Jade being a heel. I think they're going to make Jade the heel, but I think it'd be a spark to have Ford and Dawkins and Bianca as a heel threesome going after tag titles or even singles titles with Bianca's heel. But the fact that they're out of the picture is creating oxygen for others to rise, including Tiffany Stratton, but also Liv Morgan. When Ripley comes back, you want space for her to not seem like she's holding, if Bianca and Jade are in singles matches, but they're third from the top, fourth from the top, they don't get on PLEs, that's bad. So having them in the tag division, I think works. This is an example of how I like tag divisions being used, men's or women's, with them.
Yeah, I think a couple things to this. I think it was good that they were in the women's division. Bianca seems bored now to me. I mean, you're going to lean on that. Just to use a word we've been using, that was not a motivated Bianca Belair today. It just wasn't that you see in there. There's something off. And then this move that they're doing, I mean, if they can't get in sync with their pose, no matter how many times they try doing it, I mean, bad, not good. Even when they were about to be interviewed after the match and they tried it again, and it's just, not good. I think Jade, I'm not a wrestler, but I would assume she can be babysat by someone she's working opposite of in the ring, not necessarily just a tag team partner. And I think it's now time to get Bianca a bit out of there. And I forget what else you were saying. It sparked something else in me, but regardless.
I'll let Sean from Murfreesboro doing a super chat here. He wants to get this question in. Thank you, by the way, Sean. What has Nick thought about Jade lately?
I think it's getting worse.
Yeah, really.
From a month ago. I'm not talking about from the beginning. I just think confidence is clearly an issue. I think in there. I do. And I think that I hope that they have her doing a lot of, practicing and rehearsing, throughout the week, not on camera, to complement the on camera work. But, let me say this. I have full belief that they will get, and Jade will get herself to where, ultimately, the desire is for her to be at a highest level here. But I imagine it's taking a lot more time than I would have thought it to be. And when I view her, I don't think of dream matches, her versus Lynch, her versus Flair. That's all gone. That started there. It's all gone for me.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying. I can see it being the case. I mean, they just might have been in a conundrum because she wasn't ready for that spot. And if you put her in it, she's going to fail. So we need to develop her more, put her in a tag team. Let's see what we got. And it might be less novel by the time we get to it, but it has less of a chance to fail. That might be the mindset.
I know what I was going to say. Be it Belair, year too late. Last year, you and I had this conversation. It was so exciting. It was last September. It was like when she was in there with Flair and when they were like teaming or whatnot. But no, it's a year too late. It's similar to the over. I mean, they're like, that's done. Now, doesn't mean that if they were to run it now, it couldn't work. It just won't have the same impact that it would have a year ago.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, the profits and beyond. Once someone's in the same position for a while and they're static, it feels like their journey's over and they've landed. And I think people lose interest at that point. I think people like seeing people rise and they like protesting when people are dropping too far down. So yeah. All right. Next email, Todd from Staten Island, New York. How do you feel about Staten Island, Nick?
I have a lot of good friends in Staten Island. A lot of good people, nice people. Don't like their politics. Don't like a lot of things going on over there. But they're good bagels. Good bagels.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. I don't know.
The good DJs come from Staten Island. Really good DJs.
Yeah. I liked New York City bagel shops. Is one of my nice memories from my times in New York City compared to just.
I can't imagine you in New York.
Really? Oh, yeah. If I want to spend more time in New York and go to New York more than I have. I really like New York City. I love city architecture. I just want to do an architectural tour. I mean, there's a lot of things I'd like to go to clubs and shows and all kinds of stuff. I could if I could take a leave of absence from the Torch for 1 year and just go live there and just absorb it, I would. But I could say that about a lot of places in the world, and it's just it's been impractical, unfortunately. All right, so Todd in Staten Island. Hey, Wade, VIP member through Apple Podcasts. Love everything you do. Had to ask, Money in the Bank looks a little sparse to me. I'm into the matches, but no women's championship match, no U.S. title. I know they're saving a lot for SummerSlam, but I feel like they could have two more matches for Money in the Bank. Your thoughts? Well, I mean, I just speak for everybody. Shorter pay-per-view. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally fine. WWE has 5 hours of weekly television. They're doing monthly PLEs. You don't need to just put everybody on a show. AEW abuses that in the other direction. I'm fine being left wanting a little bit more, and you got to kind of earn your spot onto these shorter PLEs. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. And there's nothing that Liv or Bayley would be doing right now that I would say to compromise what would be an efficiently well-produced pay-per-view. Yeah,
and frankly, you save some of the matches that you would use to extend needlessly or shorten matches that deserve more time. Don't just put them on SmackDown or Raw instead and make that lineup stronger. That's how I feel about a lot of what AEW puts on PLEs. It just would strengthen Collision and Dynamite if some of those matches were just saved for that. Final email, and Junaid is mad when I don't read the entire email, but I can't. They're well written. But Junaid says, did Kevin Owens give away the finish for Money in the Bank when he said win, lose, or draw? It just makes sense for the Bloodline to win this match, but Junaid wants to know, did Kevin Owens give away the finish by almost conceding, hey, win, lose, or draw, we're going to dish out punishment? I think that's a context. As opposed to making winning the primary thing.
Well, I think draw is a very real possibility, as I said earlier. I think that a disqualification, double disqualification, throw out, everything, I think that that's all very, very possible. I don't think it was giving away, but I think it's always an option. And again, as I said, when you have a full show with, I think what will have definitive results in the men's and women's Money in the Bank, as well as the World Championship match, whatever that may be. I just don't. And I think you'll have a definitive in the Intercontinental. I think. Mm-hmm. I think it's possible that the 6-man just ends with chaos,
or a draw, so to speak. Yeah. Junaid also says, do Chelsea Green and Piper Niven need to separate in order to get the best out of them? I think they've been very entertaining, especially Chelsea, but Piper's also had her moments. But I feel after a clash at the Castle, the Piper's lost. That has a lot of potential to be a serious threat. And I've also been really, really, really impressed with Chelsea Green, as she always seems all in everything they give her, and her versatility has been very impressive. Earlier, Nick, you said it's too late for Piper Niven. I don't agree with that. I've thought that about so many wrestlers over the years, and they've come back to be relevant. And she's talented, and she's shown great range this year. Chelsea Green is I want to see more of her doing more things consistently. Having running around with the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think could be fun. There's other things you can do with her. What do you think? But are they? To Junaid's question, sorry. Should they be separated to get the most out of it?
I don't think that every group duo needs to be separate. I think they can break away from each other in the day to day. But to me, they're like Rosie and Madonna in a league of their own. Like they're like a fun mixed match duo who they can just be friends, and they don't always have to be tag team partners. They don't have to escort each other, but not every friendship breaks up, in drama. So I think that they don't have to break up. When I think Piper Niven, in terms of how she's produced now, I think it's sailed a bit, because I think the opportunities for her to had breakout moments have passed without having those breakout moments. So yeah, I don't know that it's done for good. It's done for right now, though. It's done for this iteration. 6 months from now, it could be back. I mean, I said the same thing about DIY at WrestleMania, and it was done. And now some time has gone by, a couple months, and but it's not as big as it could have been. They're fine though.
Yeah. We're at our peak viewership right now. I think we got a West Coast bump, Nick.
It's the talk of me stripping. We're at the nipple hour.
My DMs are open. All right.
Nicholas Barbati, and I know it. At Nicholas Barbati.
There it is. Yeah. So reach out. Junaid says, do you think they should hold off on Solo versus Roman for several months or do the match at SummerSlam? Personally, I think it would be good to do the match at SummerSlam. I feel Solo might not be fully developed as a character even a month from now. Plus, WWE may book themselves into a corner because if Roman wins, it's possible Solo loses credibility depending on how they do the finish. If Solo wins, Roman loses his first big match back, and this boosts Solo immensely, and Roman has too much credibility already to lose it all in one loss to Solo. But I feel if he beats Roman clean this early in his rise, there isn't any more impressive victory he could get, unless he wins by cheating. But if he wins the way Austin Theory won over Cena, then it would be too cheap of a victory. Personally, I'd still be for the match at SummerSlam, but the finish would be very, very, very important to get right, or it could drastically affect the trajectory of the Bloodline. So do you think they should hold off on Solo Roman several months, do the match at SummerSlam, or even as far away as WrestleMania 41? This is a good chance for you, Nick, to answer that question, and also just comment on the follow-up to the Paul Heyman Bloodline angle and what your prediction is, because they did the recap tonight too of that and commented on it. I by the way, I like to touch when they're talking about Fan Fanatics, whatever thing they plug incessantly in New York City that Hulk Hogan's part of. Corey Graves mentioned Paul Heyman is scheduled if he's able to. And I love that touch. Yeah. I love that he thought, let's not just act like it's a given. I mean, we don't know how he's doing. So Corey Graves on his feet. That was smart. And also just, do you, this question incorporates, when is Roman coming back? Like what do you think the pace is?
So let me start with the question and then see if you can remind me along the way where I'm supposed to go with this. I would prefer Roman versus Solo at SummerSlam.
And then who's Cody's opponent?
Well, I don't know. Hold on 1 second. Let me get to the why of this. I say that to say I'm really not at all excited about Lakota. Stop it. For she's got to go to the bathroom.
I get that. Yeah.
So okay. So now she's sat down. Let me get back on track. In the immediacy, the idea of Roman and getting the Roman and Solo is more exciting to me because I just don't think Solo versus Cody. I don't believe that Solo is any form of a threat to Cody. Even if they were to give Solo the title, I don't think anyone would be excited about that. I think the idea of what is going on with the Bloodline is more immediately exciting. I stand by the fact that I think you can deal with Solo in a main event match immediately, but understand that there's more intrigue in Jacob outside of it. And I'm not just falling to what Twitter is saying about that Jacob is the real, what they always wanted Solo to be and all that other kind of stuff. I know what my eyes are telling me from the past couple of weeks where my attention is drawn to. And Jacob Fatu pulls focus of everybody who's watching the past couple weeks. What would I do with Cody, to your point? Well, there's a lot of moving parts. Remember, Gunther is in the championship, one of the championship matches at SummerSlam. I wouldn't be opposed to some mechanism that would have allowed Cody versus Gunther. I don't know that, and I know that they're not going to do that, but there's a lot of extra people there. But let's say that they're going to do Solo versus Cody at SummerSlam. When does Roman come back? I think Roman comes back at like War Games time period. I don't know that he comes back any other time before that. I think you can have a curiosity. You can have War Games without Roman properly in it, or you could have him come back leading into it. But I think that's around the time frame that you're actually going to see him. Oh, you're muted, Wade.
Yeah, very good. We had a comment. Don't think Roman's wrestling at SummerSlam for JC Scooby 1976.
No.
Yeah, I'm intrigued with what the follow-up is with Paul Heyman. I mean, I'm like super intrigued.
Heyman,
yes. Like, I mean, when does he come back? Does he have Roman by his side? What's the payoff to where Roman has been? Did the Bloodline 2.0 do something to Roman dastardly, or like? I mean, and I trust they've talked this through. I would be so disappointed if they don't have a good explanation for this. But I trust right now that they will. And Heyman's return and then Roman's return are going to be huge. And I mean, is it possible Heyman and Roman don't come back till WrestleMania season?
Yeah, I mean, anything's possible. And I think, I think yes, I think that is possible. But I also think there's going to be too much around the Survivor Series time period that will lend itself to the Bloodline. That I think that's something that, that we will see. I very much think that. I think that.
Sean said I'd be totally for Randy versus Cody. They have a great backstory. Yeah. Can keep Cody busy for a while, and it would be pretty compelling.
I think Randy feels a little just nostalgia at this point. I don't know that him versus Cody is going to be something I expect.
Yeah, I mean, I think they can make it work, but I get what you're saying for sure. I mean, Randy's been in the main event so many times, and there's a little bit of a, oh no, it feels like a different Randy and Cody in a different spot, and they've got that history, but we'll see. Yeah. Ken Arnold added, I think they're going with Roman against Solo at WrestleMania in Vegas. It's not a night one main event, but maybe a night two match. Interesting. I mean, there's a storyline maybe to support that, but I don't know.
I think maybe Royal Rumble. I don't know.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, I think Roman. I don't know. I don't see that.
Yeah. So Janaid asked about Cody's opponent for SummerSlam. Janaid wanted to know, what are the odds CM Punk's a surprise entrant and winner of Money in the Bank? I don't know how they would go about that. Janaid has a details of, but yeah, no, I don't think Punk's anywhere near that. So, and I don't think that'd be a good way for Punk to come in. Do you?
No, I wouldn't have thought that. I mean, was thinking about someone earlier we were talking about, but the thought has kind of escaped me on who that was. But I think that is always a possibility with a Money in the Bank match, that there's someone who hasn't previously been announced that could magically appear.
Brock, I don't know. I don't want someone just getting gifted when everyone's had.
No, I agree.
It's not a babyface move to be gifted entry into a match either. Yeah. All right, cool. We will wrap up there. Nick, thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate this, Wade.
Yeah, it's been a marathon, but it's been fun. I did not expect this much to talk about, and there's probably stuff we didn't even get to, but Money in the Bank tomorrow night. Check out if you right here on the YouTube channel. Greg Parks, Brandon LeClaire will be doing a live show after Money in the Bank, so join them. Same format. Same thing. VIP members and Patreon members can be part of the show with video calls or audio calls. And you can be in the chat room. You can email. Different email for when Greg Parks hosts. I'm putting that on the screen. WNIA livecast@gmail.com. WNIA stands for Wrestling Night in America, if that helps you remember. WNIA livecast@gmail.com. And join in the chat room and be a video caller. So they'll be going live within minutes of Money in the Bank ending. And then for VIP members, I'll be recording a roundtable tomorrow night for VIP members, and that'll be on the VIP feed. Nick, get some sleep and go tend to your dog. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure.
All right. Thanks, Wade. Bye-bye.
You bet.